I'm just saying, it's weird. It's very
Hey, good
strange.
evening, everybody. What's going on? This is A.L. Johnson with Elevated Men. Thanks for joining us for another session of the men's panel. I got my brothers with me. We're getting into it today, y'all. We're getting
There he
into it.
is.
We had a show last week, man. It was all kind of fireworks. If you missed it, you can always catch the replay on the Elevating Men Facebook page, or you can go to the Elevating Men YouTube channel. But you definitely want to go back and get the backstory on this one because it's about to be lit. It's about to be lit. And so before we get started, got a little bit of housekeeping that we need to get out of the way first before we jump into the content. And so last week, the name of the show was A Man's Role in Women's Lives. And our intent was to be able to go through the three women who tend to be most important to us, starting
All
with your
right.
mother, then it goes into your wife or whatever relationship that is, and then your child, right? Well, we talked about the mother. And then when it got to the relationship with the woman, oh boy, we didn't get past that. So here we are at part two. And so we're going to jump into that conversation. Also, last week, we had a really good one-on-one interview with Mr. Omar Bradley. He's called the King of Compton. He was the three-time mayor. He was involved in a lot of the stuff that was going on with Tupac and Death Row Records in the 90s. Very interesting interview. I'll be referring to some of the things that he mentioned because it's actually relevant to what we'll be talking about today. And so it's really good. Also, for those of you that tune in regularly, we appreciate you. Thank you for always joining us and supporting. And just keep liking and sharing. Keep liking and sharing because we're trying to take this movement seriously, and we want to affect as many people as possible. We believe here at Elevating Men, one, that we need to rebuild the man because a lot of us are broken. And by rebuilding the man, we rebuild the family and we make stronger communities. And so it all connects, it all works together. Also, last announcement. Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Kansas City is looking for mentors. And so if you know any men or women who are capable of mentoring youth in our community, here in Kansas City in Eastern Jackson County, there's 220 Black and brown little boys and little girls who do not have mentors. They're on a waiting list, and we want to try to help them out as much as possible. And so if you know anyone who would be a good candidate, please reach out to myself or reach out to Big Brothers and Big Sisters directly. And so for those of you who are new to Elevating Men, I just want to introduce the two regulars on the panel and then our special guest. But below me, I've got Mr. Lojo Speaks. How you doing, sir?
What's up? What's up? Good evening, everybody. Gentlemen, pleasure to be on the panel. I'm humbled. I'm just gonna sit back and be a fly on the wall as I do well.
Man, you gonna talk, dude. All right, and to your bottom right, we got Mr. Andrew Boykin. You can find him on Facebook under Dinner and Dialogue. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for having me here. Welcome, audience. Hope you enjoy the conversation.
For those of you that don't know his name in the group, his nickname is Rafiki. If you remember,
Nice.
from Lion King, he's got all the wisdom, the analogies, and all of that. And so we always enjoy having him on. And then we've got a special guest. We had to bring him back. This is an Elevating Man first. I don't know if you knew this, Mr.
Hey,
Brian,
man.
but Travis was on the show last week.
Yeah,
He's
well,
an author. He's a interpersonal coach. He does a lot as it relates to the psychology of families. He's done a lot for the community. He's got this book that I read over the weekend. Very good read. Dating Intervention: Do's and Don'ts to Dodge Disaster. How many of y'all want to dodge disaster when it comes to dating? Right? From these Facebook posts, I imagine it's most of you. So you definitely want to check out this book. We're going to be referring to some of the content in the book this evening because it's very relevant, very timely. But how you doing, Mr. Bryant?
Oh, man, I'm good. Good. Like to be with the brethren. I'll sit
Yes,
down
sir.
and, break bread, man.
Well, man, we appreciate having you here, man. I know you're a busy brother, so you can be doing anything else. But, man, tell me this before we get into the other content, man. I seriously enjoyed this book. How can people get a copy of it?
You can catch this on Amazon. Even about to take it off in a minute because they disrespected me. But you can catch this on Amazon, or you can just hit me up personally. If you live in the city, I will come and bring it. I will hand deliver it. So yeah, man, let's get to know each other. Talk a little bit.
Got it. So, but
You can
before
also
we get into the content,
my wife just yelled from the back. You also go to my website. You go to TravisBrownJr.com.
Say that again, because we already got somebody who wants to check it out.
Cool. You can also go to TravisBrownJr.com and get the book from there. You can also go to Interpersonal with an E-E-N-T-E-R personal.com. You can also get it from there. So
Andrew, can you type those in the comments? Or,
yeah.
Yeah, we'll put the link in the comments for all of those, all of you who are interested in the book. I'm telling you, it's a good read, and I don't just recommend things lightly. I really mean it. I really mean it. And so, before we get into the content, I actually wanted to touch on a couple of points that you brought up in the book, if that's okay with you, and just kind of get your thoughts on it or whatever, because I think it's a very good conversation opener. And so, again, the book is Dating Intervention: Do's and Don'ts to avoid disaster. And so I like the way that you had the format of the book, the way you laid it out. You had the do's section, things that you should do. Within that, you have lack of intentionality, don'ts, lack of intentionality, being in love with being in love, right? Interviewing versus auditioning, and then putting the cart before the horse. So those were the don'ts that you spelled out in the book. Can you just kind of, just real quickly, just kind of a quick gloss over of the don'ts?
Oh yeah,
in
absolutely,
a relationship?
man. Absolutely. Yeah. It was crazy. So this was actually a workshop that I created. And someone saw me do it and was like, man, why don't you just write a book? Like, Eureka. That makes sense. And so that's how that came about. But I realized I've been working with families for a long time, particularly with couples. And we, particularly in the African American community, we don't date. Period. We don't take time we romanticize so much the emotional aspect, the emotional bonding, and the dopamine associated with that bonding that we don't really date at all, right? And you take your dating culture into your married culture, period. Hence why a lot of people who are married are still doing the same issues they had when they were dating, because those things weren't addressed. And so do's and don'ts of dodge disaster was just really, I wanted to be very plain in the language, explaining on how to date, how to think about dating, right? Because a lot of times we focus on behavior. You hear a lot of things about abstinence. You hear a lot of things about, waiting till the right time. I don't think that's descriptive enough to be helpful, right? So I want to be very plain. So those 4 things when you talk about the don'ts, being in love with being in love, right? Nobody knows what being in love really is. We talk about falling in love. If you fall, you eventually hit ground, right? This is how gravity works. So I think it's more important to grow in love, and I don't need to develop that type of intimate relationship with you to do that, right? So that's 1. 2, when we talk about auditioning versus interviewing, when you go on an interview, I'm bringing what I have, you bring in what you have. I for our company, when I was a program manager, I would do interviews, and the first thing I would tell an interviewee is like, look, you spent this whole how many years building this impressive resume. We're just seeing if my greatness and your greatness, our company's greatness and your greatness can merge. That's it, right? Audition is when you're trying to impress, right? When you go to audition, you put on the show, right? You shouldn't be auditioning during a dating phase. It should be an interview. It should be a purely cognitive experience, right? When it becomes emotional, because of how we're built, we begin doing things, and whether you want to or not, you get kind of sucked in, and now your heart is making decisions that should be left to your mind. You cannot trust your heart. Just can't. Too selfish. What was the other one? Putting the cart before the horse. You said what, Drew?
Putting the cart before the horse. That's it.
No. What was that saying that you have, or do you not want to say that one?
Which one? Are you talking about?
You said something when you were too emotional. I thought you were too hungry.
Oh no, that was the analogy in the book, right?
Okay, so all right, leave that alone.
Yeah, that's an analogy in the book, but I can explain that.
They gotta pay for that. They gotta pay for that.
Yeah, you gotta pay for that. Don't we give out the juice early? But yeah, you don't. It's equivalent of shopping when you're hungry, right? You shouldn't go around looking for emotional bonds if you are desperate and lonely. You need to deal with that first, because nobody can. The reason why, because no one can solve that. Human beings can't make other human beings happy. Not a thing.
Man, let me cut you off, man. You're gonna give them too much. You're gonna give put the brakes on that. Put the brakes on that. So again, people, this is the book, Dating Intervention, Do's and Don'ts to Dodge a Disaster. Dating intervention, do's and don'ts to dodge disaster. We're going to leave the link in the book. I saw somebody left a comment asking about part 1. You can find that on the Elevating Men page. You can also go to YouTube, punch in Elevating Men, and you can find the replay of that. If you fast forward to about 45 minutes, you'll get to the part where we were talking about relationship with women and men. So let's kind of start there. So
did we leave like on a meme when we supposed to be getting right into?
Oh, we're
Wow.
going to the meme, bro. I got it pulled up. I got it pulled up right here. I'm just knocking. I'm knocking out this housekeeping. I had to let them know who you are and how you get down with the book. But no, we're getting to the
Yo,
meme.
you
We're
want
getting to
another
the meme.
book? Like I said,
So
you can go to
so
those
check this
sites.
out. So one of our
Hit me
big
up personally.
topics.
Let's get to that.
I got you. I got you. So one of our big topics here on Elevating Men is the fatherless problem. So some people are probably wondering, why are we talking about, our relationship with women? Well, the kids in our community, they suffer when the adults in their lives can't live in harmony. And so to address the fatherless problem, we really have to address the man and the woman problem. One thing that Andrew says all the time is, a bad tree cannot produce good fruit. And so while we're talking about these mentorship programs and things that we want to do to help the young men in the community, if we don't address the man and the woman problem, we'll be mentoring a child and sending them right back into a toxic situation. And so, that's why we want to have these conversations. Now, one of the things that we brought up last week, so start putting your thoughts in the comment section, please. And also, I'm going to go ahead and drop a link here. If anybody has any input and you would like to get on the panel tonight, and instead of leaving a typed in comment, you want to get on the video, I'm going to leave the link. You just click it, enable the permissions, and you can come right on the live stream and air your grievances. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop that. I'm gonna drop that in the chat now. Give me just a second. Give me just a second.
Don't do it.
Yes. So if you would like,
clicked on already.
If you would like
right?
to hop in, I just left the link. It's right under Elevating Men. There's a comment there. So if you'd like to join us, just make sure that you have clear audio, you're in a quiet location with some decent lighting, and we will have you on. Okay. So I got to get ready to share my screen. Give me just a second, because we're going to start where we left off, which was a meme that I found online. And we definitely want to get your thoughts here. So we get this screen shared. Hopefully everybody's doing all right.
You said what, Drew?
I said, make sure you tell our audience to limit their curse words when they jump on live.
The world is watching. The world is watching, including your employers. So,
man, you gotta leave Brother Franklin alone. Stop it.
All right, let's go. So let me make sure here. Can you all see that meme?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so this is where things got interesting last week for everybody that's just tuning in. You missed it. This meme is kind of what kicked it off. And so what we were talking about is, I posed a question. I believe this. Please leave your comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think, okay? I think that men today have a hard time finding their sense of purpose. One of the top reasons that men get up out of bed in the morning, and we try to do what we do, is to provide for a family, right? Being the head of the household. Well, nowadays, there's a lot of women that feel that isn't necessary or needed. Now, this particular meme may be a bit of a stretch for most women, but it does kind of speak to, maybe the extreme. The extreme. But it says men opening doors for women is a symbol of aggressive patriarchy. Men are saying you may enter or leave this place, but only on my say so. Then there's another comment below it. It says a man opening and holding a door open for a woman is him subconsciously reminding her that all men are in control of a woman's choices. So if you open a door for a woman, this type of woman anyway, to her, it's a sign of being aggressive. It's a sign of suppression, oppression. It's you showing your male dominance. Do you agree or disagree with that? But before we get into before we go to the panel, last week, just to recap, My brother Travis here, he said no. His answer was no, because as a man, we are men. It isn't a role. It isn't a cape that we put on. We are who we are. Off panel, Andrew said that he agreed with the statement. And then I think me and Lauren were just kind of in the middle, flies on the wall, trying to figure it out. And so I'll start with you, Andrew. Why do you agree with that statement? What were your thoughts on that?
Okay, so Lauren told me, and I'll start it just like that. Lauren told me.
Get him.
Okay, so dang, I wish you would let the meme back up. In fact, can you put it back up as we're talking?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm coming at it from a very historical standpoint, and that very historical standpoint is someplace that I was not born into. However, it was something, a mindset that I adopted, and that historical standpoint was history when men owned everything, women were property, and not only were they property, they were his property. Once they were married, when fathers took their daughters to the next father across the street, he was taking his daughter to wed with the father's son, and everything that was taking place was that son was taking ownership not only of his daughter but of his property, because the man owned everything. So basically, moving fast forward, the aggressive patriarchy of a man opening doors, I liken it to a man actually holding out his arm for a woman to take his arm and follow him. I liken it for a man to put his arm around his woman as he escorts her. But basically what he's saying is, you are my property. And what he's not only saying to her, or not necessarily saying it to her, he's saying it to the eyes that are around him, meaning to other men. This is my property. Stay away. My bite is much stronger than my bark, and my bark is me actually controlling the situation by putting my arm around my property so that you can see this, escorting my property so that you will stay away, and opening doors to make sure that my property is always safe. Because at the very first moment that I take my arm or away from my property or leave my property, just like animals will swoop in on my property because they smell that scent of pheromones in the air also. So they will actually attack my property and try and take over it.
Okay. So basically what you're saying is you see it as a sign of taking possession. But when I read this meme and it says a symbol of aggressive patriarchy, it has a more negative connotation.
It does
to me.
And that's why I say, through the times that have evolved, that's where I got it from. However, in my day, it was just called chivalry. It was just called being nice. It was just called being gentlemanly, but it had a historical context that was lost. But at the end of the day, if she and I actually bump heads, and there needs to be a final decision in our conversation, I am going to demand as the head that I have the last word or the answer. And I'm going to get very infuriated should we disagree, because that is where the mask comes off or my chivalry ends.
Okay. Well, what's your thoughts on it, Travis? Because you were fired up last week, but you really didn't get to get into your analysis. So can we have the relationship expert break it down for us?
All right. So social media culture, right? We only know you by what you write. I can't read into what you mean. I can't really get into the nonverbal stuff. I can only take you for what you say. Andrew's completely correct. Chivalry is based in chauvinism. Just is. That's historically accurate. You can't really argue that. But that word aggressive, I've been in aggressive situations before that were actually aggressive, dangerous. Someone holding the door open doesn't make that list for a few reasons, right? One, I hold the door open for guys too. Am I also aggressively flexing the patriarch? What are we talking about? That's one. Two, it's an invite that you don't have to do. If I talk to this young lady, April, whatever her name is, I was like, okay, so a guy holds the door open up for you. You refuse to go in. Does he force you in? Because if her answer is yes, I'm like, okay, then I can get where you're coming from. But I've opened the door, made mistakes before. She wasn't going through or he wasn't going through. They're like, oh no, bro, I'm waiting on somebody. Okay. We have to start making points. We should be able to make points, intellectual points, without warmongering. And this is warmongering. You're trying to create an idea about men that's untrue, but sounds like you're being brave.
Yeah, do you feel like it's a part of the politically correct culture? And so we're trying to be so politically correct that we make just simple, things that really don't have a lot of weight beyond the simple act. We kind of put too much on it, right? He just opened the door for you, ma'am. That's it. That ain't got nothing to do with patriarchy.
And here's the thing, because guys do it. I've had guys open the door for me. I got stuff in my hands. Yo, bro, I got you. Right. So I will challenge her. I was like, have you ever stopped and asked the guy who opened the door for you why he was doing it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But no, that's too much like communication, right? That's too much like actually finding out if your assumption is correct. Even with PC culture, they pick and choose PC culture, right? So Pepe Le Pew, the cartoon, PC culture, he's canceled. The British royal family literally kicked out, right? The prince's wife, their whole family had to relocate because they're racist. No one's canceling them though. Where is PC culture then? So it's more like lynch mob mentality than it is actually us trying to be careful what we say so we don't offend each other. It's more about following the status quo. And right now it's okay to just say whatever about men.
Okay, so tell me this. So here's the other point of pushback. So somebody reached out to me. I'm not going to call any names, whatever. But last week we were talking about no. So we were talking about roles. We were talking about roles and the role of men. So let me be very clear here for the listeners. When we were talking about the role of men, we just meant any man. Are there responsibilities that any man has for you to consider him to be a man? Because we hear a lot of times, women and men alike, we say things like, if he was a real man, he wouldn't do that. Real men don't do that. Or a real man would have done this. Where we left off yesterday, I'll let you tell your own story, Travis. What are your thoughts on that?
It's trash. Like, I don't know. A lot of stuff needs to be thrown away so we can actually have a real conversation. We spend a lot of time talking about things that aren't even conversation worthy. This is one of those things. What a real man is usually, think about it. When people say a real man is this, it's usually attributes that they benefit from. Isn't that a coincidence? A real man would blank, and the blank is something that benefits the person that's speaking on it. If you're hungry, a real man would feed me. If you don't got clothes, a real man would give me a blanket. If you ain't got money, a real man will pay for me to go wherever I want to go. It's manipulative and it's silly. My manhood wasn't, the only person who can determine my manhood is the person who made me a man.
Any opposing thoughts to that? Anybody on the panel, anybody in the comments, any opposing thoughts to that? So as a man, that is our birthright. It doesn't obligate us to any specific tasks or duties. You can't tell me what
just one last, just because this gets on my nerves. You can't tell, you can't obligate me to things I didn't obligate myself to. Because if that's the case, then where does it stop?
Well, you used the example last week of you're a man, but then a husband is a role.
That's a role.
A father is a role. So the question is, do you have any responsibility to the women in your community as a man?
I have the responsibility I'm willing to take on. Like, I'm obligated to what I agree to. Like, period. Because everyone has such a different definition of what their needs are. The truth of the matter is there are certain needs I am not going to hold myself responsible for. Period.
Gotcha.
And you shouldn't come to my door with your 50 kids talking about you're a real man, so you should let me stay here. That kind of entitlement, which has become very popular now, is an issue. And it's one of the biggest blockers to relationships is entitlement. You're supposed to do this for me because I want you to do it. I'm like, okay, well, what I want you to do is walk to Alaska barefoot to prove to me that you're a woman.
Mm.
Who's right, who's wrong. So no, this whole responsibility, kindness is something we should all like aim for, right? Because we need kindness, and you should try to become what you need. But you should not expect that from other people, because it's not their responsibility unless they've obligated themselves to it.
Okay, so what about this situation? You always got to include the extreme. So I apologize for going here. I apologize for going here. But as a man, you see a woman in an altercation with another man, it's physical, you're out and about. As a man, is that your role or responsibility to step in, or is it because she's not? No.
Not your
what do you
role,
say to that, Andrew? What's your thoughts on that, Andrew? That specific situation?
That specific situation, yeah, you do. And the reason is, I agree with what Travis is saying about the distinction between a man and a husband. However, my difference is that there's a distinction also between a male and a man. People are born male or female, and then that title, just because they grow older as a male, does not entitle them outside of themselves, that shall I say, to be anything else. Now they can place titles on themselves and say that I am a man, and this is what I have determined man to be. However, they cannot expect or place their definition of man on anyone else to say that you have to respect what I consider myself as a man, because everyone has their own determination. Like Travis said, everyone has their own determination of what those words mean. We've watered them down to fit our benefit. So for me to go out and say, hey, I'm a man, but I don't meet anyone else's characteristics. I am my own man, but for me to look for validation outside of me, because I was the only one that could validate that based on my criteria. But for me to validate, or for someone else to validate that based on their criteria, and I'm watching a woman being beat down, they may say, okay, in your mind, you are. So we can agree to disagree.
Got you. What's your thoughts, Lojo? I know you've been observing a little bit. What's your thoughts so far?
I mean, what are we talking about? We jump into something else. I guess back to the other one.
Just the role of a man. The role of a man. So are you obligated if you see a woman in a physical altercation as a man in the community? Is there any obligation there?
Nope.
No.
I mean, but you see that you're looking at the word obligation, right? Mm-hmm. That's not to say that I'm not going to go do it.
Exactly.
But if you're saying, am I obligated to do it? Absolutely not. Would I, if I see a dude, punching on a woman, yeah, I would be like, hey, bro, like, you good? Like, I'm not gonna challenge you, I'm gonna try to talk you down, because apparently you decided to jump off the ledge, So mm-hmm. I'm trying to talk you down. I'm not gonna challenge you and be like, oh man, you a sucker for putting your hands on a woman. I don't need to do that, even if that's what I'm thinking in my head. I don't need to verbalize that, because my objective in that moment is to get you off that chick. Right, it's to try to diffuse the situation, not add flames to the fire. So no, I mean, but obligation, no.
Okay. All right. So
I've actually been in a situation where a young lady and her guy were getting into it pretty heavy, right? Really big dude, right? And at the time, I'm 5'11", maybe $140, so he's a really big guy, and he's like, shaking her, just that real aggressive. I thought he was gonna hurt her. I intervene because that's Travis, right? I intervene, she goes off on me. You need to mind your business. Hold a blanket. I'm like, oh, okay. Another time, I was taught, hey, look, you don't let women deal with trash. That's what I was taught, right? I'm working for it was at a camp meeting or something, some church event. Young lady was working in the kitchen. We work in the kitchen together. Trash got full. She started to go towards it. I was like, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. She was like, yo, you trying to say I can't do it myself? I said, oh, okay. I was about 14, 15 years old. I said, oh, I see. So would I still do those things? Yes, because that's just how I'm wired. But for someone to think it's an obligation, that starts a slippery slope that when do you stop?
Well, I just know, I know the way I was raised, if I watch a woman get beat, I'm probably gonna get beat when I get back to the house. So that was just how it was. But I do agree with what you're saying, though. I completely understand that when you're putting yourself in danger, and like you said, Lojo, using the word obligation, it may be a little strong of a word, but all in all, I do believe that it is a part of manhood to be able to step up for the women, that you're surrounded with. We got a comment from Miss Maroney. She said, "A man is a man. It's his birthright." That's what you used last week, Travis. It's his birthright. It is what it is. You're born a man. You're a man. It's about what type of man you're going to be. But she said,
before you move past that, Andrew,
yeah,
you said you're born a man.
Mm-hmm.
And when I broke down before, after we got off the call with Lauren, you're born a baby. You move into childhood. You move into a preteen or a teen or whatever. And when you reach a certain age, all those birthrights or all those words, those are titles. Then you are given the title of man when you reach a certain age. You're not born a man.
What's your thoughts on that, Trev?
A male child.
All right, so when we talk about mankind, right, we include men, women, and children.
Yeah, the words that we choose to use.
Man,
well, I mean, this is my problem with it.
Man is given it in a time frame.
But when we talk about a young male being a boy, right? Because even when you talk about boyhood,
it's still not a man.
Even when you talk about the cultural relevance of when a man becomes a man is different from culture to culture, right? So the Jews believe that I think it was like 9, 10 years old, you are a man. In this culture, you still be considered a boy, right? I think it's just recently within the last like maybe 30, 40 years that we start separating the idea of man and male, woman and female. That was never separate, ever. This is new stuff. Like it was never separated across history because it was just understood that a man meant this. The reason why I use the word birthright, and I'm not to speak for Ms. Glee, but I'm assuming it's the same reason why she's saying, is because this is something that you were pre-programmed with. That boy's gonna become a man unless somebody kills him. This is the natural progression of what's going to happen. When we talk about sexual maturity, right? Your body, you're now able to produce sperm, so forth and so on. Unless someone kills that boy, I don't care what kind of boy he is, unless someone kills that boy, he's going to become a man, right? So, and it's so consistent that you can bet on it. You can bet.
The word he's going to become. I don't disagree with you saying, but he's going to become means there's a stage where he is not.
So let's hit the comments. Let's hit the comments here. So we got Miss Nietzsche. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the comments. Appreciate your feedback. She said were you all taught what a man is or does, or do you determine what a man is from your own experience? I'll just answer that from the conversation last week. Basically, the general consensus is you're born into manhood. That's kind of your birthright and your anatomy. As far as what type of man you're going to be, that's what you have control over. Are you going to be a good man? You're going to be a bad man? You're going to be a criminal? You're going to be a good guy? You're going to be a politician? And so that's kind of what we saw there. Andrew has a difference in opinion. I'm kind of still hanging on the fence. I think Lojo is as well. We got another comment here from Leah. She said, at what point do you establish a line between a man and a boy? Being a certain age doesn't make you a man. There are differences. That's what we're discussing here. And then we've got this.
That's why.
Okay. Whoa. Here we go. Right here. Nisi. All right. There we go.
She said, but doesn't being a man mean that you do certain things such as providing, protecting, etc.? No. Like we were talking about. The issue, the original question was, do we feel, let me turn this light up a little bit. Do we feel that men are having a harder time finding their purpose, right? And this kind of speaks to that because here we are as men, talking about what it means to be a man, and there's just a huge difference of thoughts. And then we have, women here in the comment section, they've got their own thoughts. We don't even have a baseline of what it is to be a man.
That's the point. That's
Exactly.
the point. Is there are multiple definitions of what people would consider to be a man. So you can't. Well, Lauren, you ain't no man because you don't know how to change a flat tire. Okay.
But some of that stuff can be easily defeated though. So like that line she just had, isn't a man, doesn't he do things like providing, protecting, etc.? I'm like, my mama did that too. And she's very much a woman. My wife does that. She's very much I know. I am sure and certain. She's very much a woman.
I think
does
we
the
talk
same
about
thing.
like relationships and stuff like that, right?
No. But he's still making a very good point though, and I agree with your point. The thing is that statement to me says when. That's a moment in time, a when, because prior to that boy learning the skills to take over the family or to protect, provide, and so forth and so on, he is still not a man. But once he turns 13 or 8 or whatever that Jew said, he is now skilled to go into his manhood.
So if you don't learn certain skills,
now let's because I
you're a boy
don't want to
forever?
get hung up
Like,
on this one point because
it's still a title. It's still a title.
I don't think it's a title.
we got a lot to get through here, and we got to get to
this
we
relationship
thing
almost 40
here.
minutes in. That's wild.
I never would have thought it would have been this difficult to just establish the baseline of manhood.
Okay.
So last question. So before we move, wait. Before we move, real quick. So I gotta ask y'all this because I got who all has boys? Who all has boys? Who's got boys? Boy, you got boys? Boy, no. Okay, I got.
I'm girl dad over here.
So when we're talking about this whole manhood thing, and as men, we're having a little bit of back and forth trying to figure it out. How do we deal with that when it comes to our boys? Because these boys are coming up in a new era, right? They're hearing all of the, men aren't needed. I don't need a man, et cetera, et cetera. And so at some point, our boys are going to come to us and say, Dad, what does it mean to be a man? And so when we kind of have like a vague, well, you're a man because you were born a man. What type of man do you want to be? The question then comes, what type of man should I be? And so just really quickly, if your son were to ask you that, what type of man should I be? Type of man, what would be your response? I'll start with you, Lojo.
Well, what would my response be? My job as a father is to put my kids in a position to live out their purpose. I don't care if it's a boy or a girl. It's to live your purpose. It's not to live out mine. It's not, it's not about me. It's about you. Now I can be a shining example of certain things that, carry over into their relationships, their marriage, whatever the case may be. But it is not my job to make you a better me. It's my job to make you the best you. And I think that's where things kind of get lost in translation is, I don't want my kids to go through what I went through. I don't want to be like me. I want to be better than me. Yeah, in theory, that sounds good. But ultimately for me is I want you to be the best you because you are your own individual. You have my DNA inside of you. So there's certain things that you will naturally pick up because it's just part of your DNA. But you're not exactly me. So for me to make you a mini me, a better me, whatever that is, I'm selling you short.
Got you. Okay, so
I totally disagree with that because
I'll give you mine. There's 4 things I want out of my boys. I want them to be accountable. And when I say accountable, I just mean accountable to themselves. So whatever dreams, goals, aspirations that you set out, I want you to hold yourself accountable to carrying those out. Mm-hmm. Because when you don't, you have an unfulfilled life. And like we talk about here on the podcast a lot, once we get into our middle age years, all of the effects come out. When you've had an unfulfilled life, whether it becomes, drugs and alcohol abuse, spousal abuse, heart attacks, strokes, all these different things. Being responsible, I believe is extremely important. If you father a child, take care of it. If you create any type of, debts, pay it. You know, if you make any type of commitments, keep them. And so being responsible. I believe that a man should be a protector. And so that's what I would tell my own boys. You know, look out for your sisters, you know, look out for your mother, look out for the women around you. And the last will be a provider, because I do still believe, you know, I'm a little bit traditional. And so I believe that, you know, men should be the provider, whether it's the sole provider or 50-50, that's household to household. But a man should be a part of the provision for his family.
So,
you know,
so a provider or the provider?
Oh, that's household to household. And so, you know, whatever works for you.
You said
That
the.
distinction is so important.
What's
That
that?
distinction is so important.
Like,
No. Like I was saying, I said whether it's the sole provider or 50-50, whatever works for that household.
Okay.
But he should be a part of the provision process. I don't think a man should be laying
should
on
be
the
able to
couch
take
while his
care of
woman
himself.
takes care of everything.
Yeah, he should be able to take care of himself. Like he should, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Exactly.
He should be able to like stand on his own too. You know what I mean? Like, and not be using others, you know, to you know, I got a lot of like pimping in my family. That's not the way to go. You know what I'm saying? You should be able to stand on your own too.
What are yours? You know, I know you don't have any sons, but if you were just telling your boy, he said,
I'm
Dad,
listening
what type of man? You know,
I'm listening
what
to
are a couple things?
Mojo. I'm listening to you speak. None of the characteristics you've given that you teach your sons are really gender specific. Because everything
True.
you teach everything you just say you teach your son, I tell me and my daughters have the same conversation. Same conversation. You are to take care, you gotta be able to take care of yourself. In fact, the way society is now, if you're a woman and you're not holding down your own, something is seriously wrong. Society actually favors you at this point when it comes to occupation. Stats don't lie. It's facts. So there's been no other time in American history that a woman can just go from not making anything to a millionaire dang near within like a 10-year span. Right? So I'm like, no, babe, you gotta take advantage of that. And because she listened to her father, she's going to school for free right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like she's, you know, she in college, she's finished, she got 3 semesters left, she's 17. You know what I mean? Like those kind of characteristics, things about like hard work, having a strong work ethic, knowing who your God is, right? Being emotionally responsible completely, like you are obligated, your emotions are your own. They're no one else's. Your behavior is your own. None of those things are gender specific. None of them. You have a child, you need to take care of your child. That's not gender specific, right? So the idea of being a provider or whatever, yo, take care of yourself. If my daughter, she met a really good, you know, good guy, good, right? She met a really good guy, right? And she didn't have her stuff together. I would tell him, you need to leave my daughter alone until she gets her life together. I don't care how much money he's making. No, she needs to be able to show that she can maintain her own lifestyle before bonding with someone else's. That's just
we got a comment.
responsible.
Got you. So let's keep it rolling. Drew, what would you tell your grandson? He says, "Hey, Papa, you know what type of man should I be? What are a couple things?"
I tell him to enjoy his childhood while he's still a child. That's what I would tell him.
No, he's older. Fast forward. Answer the question.
Here,
No, see the question.
Here's a better question to ask. Why did you disagree with what I said? Because you said
because you said that I want to let them become the best them that they are.
That's not what I said.
And my response was, "But Dad, I'm 8 years old, and I'm the best sitter on this couch and playing this game right now. I'm almost at level 19. But you're gonna make me stop playing this game so I can go and take a bath or go and take out the trash. You're gonna make me stop being the best that I am right now. I'm the best kickball player in the world. I don't want to be anything better than the best kickball player in the world. But you're gonna make me actually go to school and do my homework. Why is that?
That's the good thing. That's our job. That's our job as parents.
I'm being the best that I can at that age.
And it's up to me to tell you that, hey, that video game, unless you become a YouTube superstar, ain't about to pay no bills. And so, listen, because this is my thing. I think we wait too long to introduce our children to responsibility. And that's why you have things like, 30 is the new 20s. No, it's not. 30 is 30. 40 is the new 30. No, 40 is 40. Like, that's what it is. And so you can't tell me that at 30, when you should have a certain set of responsibilities and things you're taking care of, that, oh, no, 30's the new 20. So I'm still at home with my mom. I'm still playing video games because that's what I'm good at. That don't fly.
Well, I think
That don't fly. That don't fly.
I think being a parent is arrogant, right? It's audacious because we're basically telling another being that I know what's best for you better than you do. But that's part of being a parent, is being audacious. I am telling you, she's like, I'm best at level 19 on the couch. I'm like, no, you're not. This is not your best. But as a parent, being a parent is super audacious. It's like,
but see,
that's why everybody shouldn't do it. It ain't
see what I'm
heart.
saying. What I'm saying is that, I look at myself as a guide. Not a god, but a guide. So yeah, there's going to be times where I may say, hey, I know you think level 19, is the best you can be, but I know you got more in you, and so, but that doesn't, so when I say the best you that you can be, I'm not talking about in a moment. I'm talking about, that's a progressive statement, that's a progressive statement. It's not a statement of right here, right now. I'm talking about progressively, so that when you reach that age where, you leave my nest to go build your own, you're not building what I built. You built what was your purpose. You're moving in your purpose, is what I'm trying to say.
Definitely. Now I'm telling you, because now I might sound like a dictator, but I'm just being real. I'm telling my boys, listen, and we talked about this before. I'm teaching them the 4 quarters of life. So from 0 to 20, I need you focused here. From 20 to 40, this is going to be the focus. They need direction. They need some kind of direction. I do agree that they should be able to find their own purpose, but we have to teach our children to do it at the right time so that they establish a solid foundation for their lives.
What's the difference between guidance and direction?
What's that?
What's the difference between guidance and direction?
Depends on the age that you're speaking.
To me,
person's age that you're speaking to.
It's the same thing to me. If I tell you, if you ask me the direction, if you ask me
me
the direction,
directing you and me guiding you, because
let me finish. I gotta finish my statement. Right. If I say, if you ask me, how do you get to Quick Trip? Tell me. If you say, hey man, how do you get to Quick Trip? Okay, well you take a left here, you go down 2 blocks, and you take another left. I gave you directions. I don't know that guidance is much different than that, outside of me telling you, hey, you're going to get there faster in a car than on a bicycle. But
direction.
I'm still giving you directions, guidance. That's a.
Look at the definition of a guide. A guide actually guides someone so they can follow it.
Correct. The guides will walk with you.
Yes.
Giving directions.
Okay. I'll give you that. You're right. You're right.
Actually walk with you there.
So put up Ryanda's post, please. Will you?
Let me go back.
There's many characteristics that we teach.
Okay, but after this comment, we have, because of time. Now listen, hey, for y'all that are watching, I'm just letting y'all know behind the scenes, they're like, dude, you be putting a lot of content in these deals, and I do want to stay on one topic for a period of time, but like one of the comments said up here, this is a forever conversation. We'll never get to the bottom of it, and so we'll keep it moving. But that comment is here for you, Andrew.
Okay, so Travis was saying he specifically teaches his girls so they will be self reliant. They will not be dependent upon on some man. One of the things that I put in my book is that we raise our girls, because she's talking about we teach boys and girls differently. That's how I'm taking this. They assume different roles. We raise our girls, and there's a reason why we raise our girls, and one of the reasons is because of this conversation right here. But we love our boys. We love our boys to death, meaning we almost expect them to be men when they reach a certain age, and that expectation is where we fail them, because we equip them with nothing other than expectation. So my point that I'm trying to get to is the reason why we raise our girls and don't raise our boys, or not the reason, the result of why we raise our girls and why we love our boys is because of this conversation. Meaning here are 4 men who are still trying to figure out how our differences define manhood. Here are 4 men trying to understand and help others understand our pathway of how we got to just this point of still trying to figure it out. and yet we still haven't listened to the fact that if we're still confused on it, what do you think the women in our lives who want to follow us, how do you think they really feel when they get to the point where we're just as confused like right now?
Dude, stay right there. Please stay right there. That is a good point. That is a good point.
But that's also an assumption.
Because I ain't confused.
Yeah.
Because what I was going to say, not about the confused part. What I'm talking about is, do the women really want to follow us? Because you said, they're wanting to follow us, and is that true? Do they want to? Does the modern woman want to follow a man?
Chime in. They do.
So check this out. Oh, definitely chime in the comments. But listen, so when I posted the events page, a lady inboxed me. Right? She inboxed me. She didn't comment openly, but she said, "I don't need a man. I never needed a man. I want a man." I didn't really get all into the specifics for what, but for a lot of women, they feel that the need for a man is out of the window. So for those of you that are watching, please in the comments, if you're a woman and you're watching this, type "I need a man" or "I don't need a man."
No, we were talking about follow. We were talking about follow. Follow.
What's
follow
that?
with the subject matter.
Okay, follow. Say I need to follow a man, need a man, whatever your variation is. Whatever your variation is. Women want a man to lead. They would love to follow their man if he were truly leading them. They would.
Yeah.
We shall see. We shall see. That's what we're trying to find out today. Now, listen. So I got something else I wanted to bring up here while we're waiting.
You got something else you want to bring up too?
Respond. Oh man, yeah. We gotta get to the bottom of this, bro. I told you, man.
I'm like, man, let's stay on one point and let's hammer it out. Man, you like, here's more content to discuss.
We will never hammer it out. But all of these things go together.
No,
they all go together. Okay, so I got this. Okay, so we did get a comment on the leadership. She says, "I want a man to lead." Yes. Let's see another one. "I have no problem following a man who is a true leader, a man of God who follows God, can be followed." So yes. Miss McKenzie, she said, "In addition to a provider, we need emotional availability and stability. Unfortunately, we don't always raise our men to embrace their emotions and vulnerability." And so from the women here, you're right, Andrew. They do want to they do want to follow a leader. They do want to follow.
No. They want the title of that man to have certain qualities. That man, and that man. This is what we haven't even figured out. But yet, this is the best that they can. Well, this isn't the best that they could choose from. But we represent, the men.
Man, look. All right, what's her name?
Confused, man.
Miss McKenzie. Look, bro. I'm just gonna say it. Much respect and love. You want him to lead you where? It's funny how that question is never answered. I want a man that lead you where? Do you want a man that leads, or you want a man that agrees?
No, I don't think that's what she's saying.
I'm not saying she's saying one way or the other, but see, because lead is a verb, right? You don't just lead, you lead somewhere. Where? I never hear the sentence completed.
Through life.
You're already doing it as a woman. You're already doing that.
But here's the thing: she does not want to.
She doesn't want to.
She wants
to.
No, she does not want to. I'm going to stand on that.
Oh, so she wants a man. So I know, like taking care of children. I know what that feels like, right? I know my child. She depends on me to take care of her. I'm with that. I understand what that means. My wife's a grown woman who's had all these accomplishments. She's more accomplished than I am, and I ain't no slouch. And she's more accomplished. She's smarter. She's brighter than I am. She doesn't need help being led through life, because if you're living, if you're surviving, if you're taking opportunities and you're capitalizing on them, lead you where? Here's the mix-up. There was a man created a society where women couldn't do anything but depend on men. It wasn't some internal thing where women you literally needed men to own. You couldn't have property. You couldn't have a job. You couldn't have a bank account. So yes, of course, if I even right now, y'all are men, you're men of God, you're strong men, right? If I were to cut off all your supplies and all your ability, and I was the plug and the only plug, you gonna need me too. But the moment that it opens back up, are you still gonna need Travis? The moment those opportunities open, do you still need Travis?
No. So let me.
We're introducing the word need, and the original subject was women want to follow their man.
Follow him where?
And this is what I'm talking about. We go back to this historical context. This historical context says that not only do women birth the child, but at certain points in times, women are not at their strongest. And at certain points in times, based on our anatomy, even when a woman is at her strongest, she is still susceptible to the stronger man, physically atomically made man. Meaning, when we say lead, we're talking about this family. We're talking about as this man is cutting down this bush when they're going through the future, he is actually blazing the trail. She is actually behind him, taking care of the children, which are the ones that are going to benefit from this trail where they get to. So if a lion jumps out, that's what that leader does. He protects his family. She will be the next in line should he fail. But the purpose is so that the family will actually get to where that person who is cutting.
All I'm hearing is women need men to protect them from other men.
No,
because because all I heard in that scenario, all you're doing is giving threats. Right? Okay. There's a danger. There's something there where a man's the only place that we excel over women is strength, where that's needed, right? But we live in a society where anybody can own a gun. Anybody can go to the shooting range.
We had a comment also, or a few weeks ago. We talked about how well the best prepared. I'm not saying the best prepared. Let me take that out because we didn't put that in there. But women actually sleep better when a real man, and I have to put that, when a real man is actually in their home. No matter how prepared they are, how many guns they have, how many muscles they have, how many degrees they have, they sleep better because they are more at peace within themselves.
When there's a man that they trust, correct? Like,
yes,
it's not just any man. But guess what? When I'm with my homeboys, I feel safer too. So what we saying? When I'm with
your main point, Travis, correct me if I'm wrong, but your main point is men and women need the same things, and we kind of got to take the gender part out of it.
Our biology and our anatomy gives us different lenses, right? I believe in the Bible. So what women saying is true, because what women will also say, I want someone who leads me the right way, but she's the one determining if it's right or not.
Mm-hmm. But then in the Bible said,
in the army, it doesn't matter. If I'm the general and I tell you to go jump over there, it doesn't matter if it makes sense to you or not. There ain't no right way. You don't get to judge my decisions. I told you to go jump on that stack. You are jumping on that stack. Why? Because I am the leader. Period. How you feel about my leadership, how you feel about my direction is irrelevant because I am the general. And when I make a call, that's it. What women will say is, I want a man who leads me right. But she determines what right is. So I'm like, is that really leading? It's a partnership. But if you go to Genesis 1, right? I always go back to the garden in the very beginning, right? She gets tempted with the fruit. She didn't say, oh, let me bring this fruit to Adam first so he can be God and Lord. She ate it. He said, you can be God. She said, bet. She ate it first, and then she brought it to her husband. Mm-hmm. Which means that when she decided to eat it first, she's like, oh, no. For a moment in time, if she would have believed what the servant say to be true, oh, I get first dibs. That doesn't sound like the submissive stuff people be talking about. So if I had to make a premise, what I say is it's not that women want to lead, but because of there are certain things that happen between men and women, she kind of can't help but to. It's not something she necessarily wants. You see these women in relationships where they're like, I just wish he would do right, but she can't leave them. There's something keeping them there. And so I encourage women, date correctly, because you're going to be connected to this dude whether you want to or not. The book.
And for those of you who may just be tuning in.
You
The
don't know.
commentary you're hearing right now is from Mr. Travis Bryant. He's the author of Dating Intervention, Do's and Don'ts to Dodge Disaster. Do's and Don'ts to Dodge Disaster. Now, I got to get back into the book for this next segue. Let me do the segue, brothers, and don't be talking about me or whatever off camera saying I'm jumping. So, so check this out. This in your book, in the don'ts section, you talked about lack of intentionality when dating. And so just meaning we have no purpose up front. We meet people, we have some kind of emotional win, whether it be sexual or otherwise, and then we're off to the races in a situationship.
Correct.
And that creates a lot of mistrust and things like that. You also talked about being in love with being in love. Which was the second chapter. And in that chapter, I like how you broke it down, but you kind of made some analogies in reference to social media and how it paints this false perception of how relationships should go. And so it really creates a discontentment in people who are in relationships. And so you're looking at Instagram, you see somebody traveling 24/7, but here you are with the kids and, you know, the whole family structure, and you're not able to do that. And so it makes you feel as though you're missing something. And so what I wanted to talk about next is the media, kind of like media and how it plays on our idea of relationship today. Because right now we've been talking for an hour now and we haven't got past what is it to be a man.
Doesn't happen enough. That's all.
But there's a reason. For that, because we get some information in our home from our parents. But right now, in the 2000s, our biggest influence tends to be media, right? And so I got this. I was looking at this earlier today. I'm gonna show you guys something real quick.
Got another meme.
It's kind of a meme, but it's just an illustration. So it says here, first they create the problem, and then they sell you the solution. And so Wednesday, like I said, we had an interview with Omar Bradley. He was a 3-time mayor of Compton. Now, his backstory, like I said, he was there right when Death Row Records started. And so he kind of talked about how the landscape of Compton, California was prior to Death Row entering the scene. Right. He talked about the Crips and how, it's rumored that was like a government operation to prevent like a Black Panther situation from arising again. And so it was all control. It was all about controlling the narrative. And so first they create the problem, then they sell you the solution. When it comes to our music, if you think about it, even R&B is all about cheating, infidelity, I'll take your woman, the women are singing, I'll take your man for the weekend, et cetera, et cetera. It creates a lot of distrust in the community. Another thing that he brought up is when he was younger and he would listen to music, it would be the Temptations. I got sunshine on a cloudy day, love music. The 7-year-olds, when he was mayor, they were listening to, Be Better Have My Money, Ain't No Fun If the Homies Can't Have None, et cetera. And so women grow up with this distrust of men from the media is what his point was. And so then when we become adults and we look to date and connect with each other, then there's automatically this wall that goes up because it's like, hey, I ain't about to be your hoe. I ain't about to be a B. I ain't about to be none of that. And that may not even be your approach. And so
they were making booty music back then. It just had a different rhythm.
Tell them, Lojo.
Exactly.
Talk to them.
Man, music has always had a positive vibe where, you talk about, structured subject matter. And then it's also had this other side where it's all about, having fun, living outside of who you may be. Like, that's not subjective to what we were, the music that was in the 90s. You can take Tupac, for instance, Tupac made Brenda Had a Baby and then turned around and did a song it's called I Get Around.
Exactly.
Same album.
Exactly.
Same album.
Okay. But the question here is, do you feel that the media that we consume, whether it's music, television, or any of that, we know that it's all putting out content that kind of tears the man and the woman apart?
I think the most dangerous thing is not the music or the content that that glorifies being a player or a pimp or whatever, or like he was saying. I don't think that's the most dangerous to relationships. The most dangerous to relationships is the stuff that says I'm gonna love you forever. I'll make sure you'll never cry again. I'm gonna hold that's more dangerous because we'll look at I Get Around and be like, nobody's trying to wipe up Tupac either. I mean, nobody's trying to marry Tupac either, for real. You know what I'm saying? Not no, no woman who's really trying to take that next step because he gets around. He said in the song, that's your fault.
But is that true though? Is that true though? Because you said a woman's not trying to marry him. We know there's a big conversation about squares versus guys having a little swag. I've even seen when it comes to men that are in the streets, it being about a protection thing.
If a man says I'm determined to be a player, and a woman tries to be a wife to that man, she deserves whatever she deserves whatever happens. If he has a song that says, "Hey, I get around," and you get with him and he's getting around, why are you surprised?
I got you. But let's not detour. Let's not detour though. So so we got the media because this is one part of it, and I want to tie this together a little bit. So I was doing a little bit of research, right? And I found this article. It said 4 myths about Black marriage. We throw around a lot of statistics and a lot of facts and figures. Some research, some maybe we just heard somewhere else and we're regurgitating. But this is what I found today. So myth number 1. It says that 42% of Black women never marry. Come to find out that study was 18 and up. And so if you actually exclude the age groups that are most likely to not be married anyway, 75% of Black women actually get married before the age of 35, right?
Come on.
Myth number 2, it says that educated Black women have it harder as far as finding a mate. The fact is, Black women pursue college at a rate of 2 to 1 when it comes to men. And so they are going to college, double the rate of Black men. But it's the exact same thing in the white community, and it doesn't stop them from getting married. And so that's really a misnomer. And in fact, Black women that go to college, 70% of them are married by the age of 40. And so, again, that's another misconception. Myth number 3, rich Black men marry outside of their race. People just marry who they love. That's what I believe. But again, not true. 83% of Black men making over 100,000 marry Black women. And if you take away income, the number jumps to 88%. Right. And then myth number 4, Black men don't earn as much as Black women, which again goes to the, conversation about Black women not being able to find a good mate because they're too highly educated or they make too much money. The actual facts are Black men are more likely to make at least $75,000 a year, and double the number of Black men make $250,000 a year as Black women. And so when I have this meme up, it says first they create the problem, then they sell you the solution. And we're talking about music and media and how it affects our mind and our relationships with women. The point that I'm trying to make here is, why is that? When they say that, the problem. So the problem they've created, I feel they've created distrust. They've created the idea of promiscuity. They've taken away the idea of any type of vulnerability or anything like that. And then the solution, a lot of the solutions that they sell us is be individual, be on your own. You don't need a man. You really don't need a woman. The nuclear family isn't important. You can raise a child by yourself. And so they create these problems through music and media, and then they sell us a solution of just be by yourself and live your best life.
Yes,
and so what are your thoughts on that?
Since we was talking about leadership, right? Since we was talking about, men leading, how many men or women let they young kids watch the WAP performance last night?
The what?
The WAP performance last night at the Grammys? The Grammys.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. How many of y'all let y'all kids sit right in the room and watch all that sexuality? Because I tell you what I did. My son was sitting there and I was like, bye. And my wife was like, well, bye, get out the room. Get out the room. Like, we breed that. As parents, we breed that. They be all right, you know what I'm saying? No. Because you're not going to have a conversation with them while they watching it or while they listening to it. You're not going to have that open conversation with them. If you look at somebody's algorithms, that'll tell you where they at in life. If you look at all positive stuff, guess what social media going to feed to you? All positive stuff, because it's just following what you're searching for. If you looking for a conspiracy theory, guess what social media going to keep sending you? Conspiracy theory. So we are in charge of what we see from a media perspective. Turn the TV off. turn it off. If it ain't nothing good on it, turn it off. But we don't have that. We don't have that self-control to do that. We're gonna keep watching it. We're gonna keep, letting it feed our systems. We're gonna keep letting it feed our kids' systems because we don't want to be the bad guy, or we don't want to have the long, extensive conversation with our kids that we properly explain certain behaviors. It's just entertainment. That's not a part of that. That's not real life. Because when we start allowing that to be real life, you're gonna have a big problem. You're gonna have a big problem. Gotta jump. We'd love to see a part 2 with women on the panel. We told you, Miss McKenzie, we put the link out there. Stop it.
Right. You could jump right in the conversation.
Now, see, what I heard when you were saying, you said on those segments, if you're looking for something, you can find it in social media. If you're looking for it, you can find it there. What I kept hearing was if you're searching, if you're looking for something, and you're going to find it. What that meme said to me was there was once a time where the statement art imitated life, and now that statement basically says, which I can agree with, life imitates art. Because life is looking for life. No one is helping life find it before. So now it has to look for it because the people in the household, the tree, hey, your fruit, you're going to be all right. Go find yourself. So they go find themselves.
I think too, it appeals to our selfish nature. We want to be loved. We want to be happy. We don't want to pay the price for that, right? And what social media does create a picture that there isn't a price, right? If you want to have a healthy garden, you go in the garden, it's all pretty and it's all nice. You got to talk to the person what did you do about your weeds? What did you do about the thorns? Show me the scars on your hands to keep that way. Social media makes it sound like everything's a quick fix. If you love if you love someone enough and you love each other enough, it'll just work out. That's not work. That's luck. Right? We're not taught how to work at nothing. Even when we go to college, it's like, okay, I go to college, get my degree. Now a job should just fall in my lap. We're not. So it's really dimmed the idea of what relationship is and what it's really for. So now you have questions. Well, what do I need a man for? What do I need a woman for? What you have these questions now, but that question is really based on selfish desire. It's not, okay, what can I do for somebody?
Exactly.
It's not based upon, okay, how can I help this person in this capacity, in this role of, spousalship? Because I've been working with couples a long time. My conclusion is most people shouldn't be married because they lack work ethic. And if you don't have work ethic, you ain't gonna make it, period. You're dating with the husband and wife title. Stuff is crazy. But emotionally, your heart don't care about what your mind is doing. Your heart is going to bond to whatever. Social media is not accidental. There's geniuses who understand social engineering.
Exactly.
You ain't got to search. They're going to based on your demographic and based on who you're friends with and things like that, they're going to shove it down your throat. I didn't ask to listen to Boys to Men. It was just in the air. I'm in the store, right? And as a kid, there are certain songs that come on now. I start singing along and I can't remember where I learned it. You ever had that experience? Like, there's a song, you start humming the tune, you think about, like, why do I know this song? This is a country. I don't even listen to country music. Why do I know this? Because it's just been in the air. It's just been in the air. And they've done that with concepts. And now, more than ever, as parents, we have to be more protected than we've ever been because there's so many things that come from different angles, and all this based on falsehood. We don't talk about spousalship for real. Even when we talk about what a real man is, what a real man was, we don't talk about what it means to be a wife. Why are we having that conversation? If that's what we're talking about, we don't talk about what it means to be a husband.
And so let me ask you this, Travis. So I had posted something on my Facebook maybe about a week or so ago, and it was about basically how women are told, don't be a wife before he makes you a wife. Like, don't do wifely things before he's put a ring on your finger.
I agree. Those both ways.
Okay. One, I'm curious as to what that means exactly. Like, what are wifely things? And then two, we never hear that as men. So I've never had anybody tell me, hey, like, don't act like a husband to this woman before.
Isn't that weird?
You're the
Isn't that
husband.
strange? We're being the leaders. but no one had that
Right.
conversation. Isn't that
Yeah,
weird?
yeah. So what does that even look like? Just anybody, like what does that even
All
look
right,
like?
so when you talk about being a wife, that's why understanding man or woman is who you are. Husband and wife is what you do. These are roles you take on. Those roles are really determined by the person that you're deciding to deal with, right? So there are certain things that my wife, because the only person that judges me as being a husband is my wife, right? This role is tailor made for her. Her being a wife is tailor made for me, but because we don't date correctly, we make everything very abstract and emotional. Where really a wife and a husband is really kind of almost like a business partnership. So there's certain things that need to be had. If I'm talking to young women, I say, look, there's a few things a man needs to have before he's prepared to even start courting you, right? One, he needs to know who his God is, because every man worships something, whether he realizes it or not. It's just in us, right? You know who his God is. He needs to know what his purpose is. What am I trying to do, right? Because you're built to be a helpmeet. You're built to beautify and intensify whatever environment you're in. So if he doesn't have an environment for you to do that in, you're going to be upset with him. 3, he needs to be able to explain to you why does he need you, because men are functional in the way that we think. That's why the worst thing a woman can do is date a man young, because if he hasn't solidified himself in his purpose yet, he gonna find somebody who does. He's gonna find himself drawn to someone who's more functional, and now there's an affair, right? So those are the 3 things I tell women, like those things you look for. As a man, right? When I'm talking to men, dealing with women, talking about before we even talk about wifehood, this should all be hammered out during the dating process, right? Also tell women, that's the 4th thing, don't let him touch you. And women be like, why? I was like, this is why when I talk to women, just working one-on-one, they talk about these horrible relationships they were in. I said, if sex wasn't involved, would you have stayed in it? She thought about it. She's like, nah. But she's not in it for the sex, though. I'm like, I know you're not, but it creates something. It creates a bond that men don't have the same way. It just does, right? And the moment you open yourself to him, right, you are creating an attachment that you're going to end up resenting. I tell people all the time, an example with my wife, she was Jacqueline Green, that's her maiden name, right? She's Jacqueline Bryant now, right? Jacqueline Green and Jacqueline Bryant don't always get along. So what I try to do is really cater to Jacqueline Bryant, so when Jacqueline Green shows up, the battle's gonna be in my favor. Sometimes it isn't, and I gotta give her that room. She wake up pissed off because she remembers the freedom that Jacqueline Green had, and now she's obligated to this Negro who's a sinner, who makes mistakes, and she can't go nowhere because she's attached now. And I've been giving her enough trauma for her to detach, right? So that's what I tell women. When I talk to men, I say, look, you need to have her define what wife means, just in conversation. That's 1. 2, you need to be able to define why she's useful for you. Period. Because if you cannot forget love, forget how you feel about her. If you cannot define that, it's going to put you in a compromising. It's going to put you in a compromising position, right? What are her skills and talents? How can she help you achieve the things you're trying to achieve? She doesn't need you for that in the same way for that reason. Society has shown us that. What do you say? Women going to college is 2 to 1. Like when they let women in, women came over and did the thing. They just did, because they don't have the same internal barriers that men have. They just don't. So when they let them in the workforce, they took off. So I tell them, hey, look, you got to make sure, have her define what wife means, because often women aren't challenged to even think about that. That's 1. 2, her skill set, her skill and talents. Do they complement the vision that you have? 3, you all need to have an open, honest conversation about what submission looks like. Because people talk about marriage is, it's money, it's the main reason people get married. No one's gotten divorced. I'm sorry, they say money is the reason why people get divorced. No one has gotten divorced over a piece of paper. They get divorced over values about the paper. What are your values? And if she's contradicting some of your values, find somebody else. It's just not. There's 6 billion people on the planet, bro.
That's some good advice.
So that's when I talk to them, because men and women, again, our anatomy gives us different lenses. We have different struggles. We have different things. So we're not going to be looking for the same. That's what, when you talk about what a husband is, what you talk about what a wife is, the conversation is going to be different. It just is, because we look for different things. Society is making an even playing ground, where now we just talk about being married. We don't talk about spousal shit. We talk about weddings. Wedding is what, a day? I don't remember. It's a day, a few hours.
Yeah, because the interesting part too with the statistics that I read, the four myths or whatever, we are marrying more than they say and all of those different things, but the divorce statistics are correct, and so
Exactly.
still, yeah,
You
more of us
married
are
because your
getting
marriage
married.
sucks. Yeah.
We see the Instagram weddings, the over the top proposals and all of that, but they're still ending in divorce.
The interesting thing is you gave all those statistics about how women are growing. Travis gave the statistics about what men should actually let women know beforehand, and help her understand her role. All that took place within 15 minutes, and yet it took us almost an hour and a half to finally give up on trying to figure out what this man monster is. And my point is, we set so many good guidelines for women, but we never ever tell that man what he is supposed to be or do. And Hazeline Clay had a comment up there where she said Adam was there. What I'm hoping is that we'll have a conversation about Adam and Eve, because there was a reason why Eve was left alone by her husband. There was a reason why the serpent had an opportunity to even entice her. There was a reason why Adam abandoned his full responsibilities. But we don't talk about that.
Because
I thought it's because he didn't want to. I thought he didn't want to be aggressive and put his arm around him. So.
He didn't want to display patriarchy.
No, but real talk, if you read the scripture, if you actually read the scripture, there might be a transliteration issue. It sounds like Adam was right there.
He was.
So, like, if you really go back and just read the scripture, it sounds like Adam watched all this go down.
Adam was the one who abandoned his responsibilities. It was not Eve. Adam.
Wait, time out. So I think that's part of the issue, though. So when we talk about Adam and Eve, we're talking about two individuals, right? And that's why I say who you are and the role you play to others, because roles are just about relationships, right? Everybody ain't my friend, everybody. So I don't have expectations of everybody to do things I expect my friends to do. Roles are just only are giving life by relationship. Travis is still just Travis. My roles is what give it. So when we talk about man being a role, right? Adam and Eve, that was the quickest marriage we've ever seen, right? In my personal opinion, and it's the same thing men struggle with now, right? When women talk about weak men, let's talk about what that really actually is, right? Because Adam would be considered a weak man. So what of Abraham, right? God gave Abraham the vision. Sarah was like, let's rush this along. It's taking too long, right? We don't talk about how powerful women actually are. When we talk about a weak man, men aren't taught how to confront women. We just don't. We either gonna be we tend to be on one extreme or the other. We're either really passive because we don't want that smoke, or we're gearing up for battle and we're almost too heavy-handed. We're not taught how to confront women in a healthy way.
Okay, but where does this teaching come from? Where is this teaching supposed to come from? Because again, what we're talking about is a man's roles for women. We see that there's confusion. We talk for an hour. We can't get to the bottom of it. It's because there's so many conflicting messages. I don't think
it's that conflicting though. Like my journey as Travis, this is just
no. I'm saying the messages that we get are conflicting. So we get a certain set of criteria from our parents. We get a certain set of criteria from church. The music gives us a completely different perception. The women that we deal with tell us something different. We get with our friends, they say something else. And so we've got like 5 different vantage points of people telling us what a man is.
The truth is always going to be the truth, right? Because the truth always stands. So all these perceptions, I'm like, okay, let's play it out for 5 years. Let's play it out. Do they include that you are going to be a person that makes mistakes on purpose? Is that included? Because that's what happens with everybody. Forget what you're talking about. Forget about what you think. Everyone makes mistakes. No one says they're perfect. Why is that? Because no one says I'm going to be perfect one day. Because we accept on a very internal, basic level, I'm a flawed human being. They're going to make selfish decisions. They're going to hurt people around me. Period. Why isn't that in the conversation? Is that the reality we all agree upon? I think we take to this fantasy because we like how it makes us feel. We like the idea of being a real man. That's the reason why it takes. We don't think about we're flawed human beings. That's the premise.
we don't
And
have
that
that
premise is never explored.
we don't have that conversation in depth, because what we do is we actually get on the man. We can't come to a conclusion, but then we say, okay, women, understand that we're flawed, and that's where we're going to stay. We're not going to fix that. So it's your responsibility to pick up, understand, and forgive where we've actually stopped, where we said, hey, we're flawed, we're men.
No, not just men, women too. Everybody's flawed. So I'm
No, and that's what I was gonna say too, because we brought this up a couple of weeks back.
Yeah,
I feel
everybody's
like
flawed.
when it comes to relationships, especially in this day and age, and in the Black community specifically, we know that there are certain traumas that are experienced on both sides, and so to get with someone and punish them for the way they respond to past trauma when you knew that it was there, is kind of crazy. Like
just don't
you knew
deal
it was.
with them.
So you got to have a certain amount of patience. So if I get with a woman, I know she didn't have a father in the home. I know she done been, cheated on multiple times or whatever. I'm gonna have to handle that situation with a certain amount of delicacy and care and understanding, and vice versa. But vice versa, she knows that I grew up without a father.
What's wrong with just being like, nah, that's too much for me? Just don't deal at all.
And that's why I was gonna say, are you really ready for that though?
There are certain women, I like them, but they were their flaws was beyond my ability to be patient.
Like that's truly what gets relationships in trouble.
Straight out.
That's what gets relationships in trouble, is that, we like, oh man, you know what I'm saying? I can deal with this. You know what I'm saying? I'm good. I can deal with this. And we're not doing anything positive that's gonna make the situation better. So the whole thing about trauma is deep. I've probably provided some of the happiest moments for my wife. I've also provided some of the most traumatic moments for my wife.
Absolutely.
Because when you cut, because we're individuals, we're selfish, we're flawed.
Mm-hmm.
When you cut, there sometimes you cut so deep that there's not enough surgery to ever repair that scar again. Ever. It just all you can do is put some Neosporin on that joint and hope that you don't rip off the Band-Aid again.
I think it's a thing where we don't, like I said, we have this whole list, men and women, this list of these positive traits we want in someone else, right? Mm-hmm. No one includes the things that we know to be true. We're kind of all sick. You just want to find somebody with a sickness that doesn't destroy you, right? So the reason why I chose my wife or the other women, I liked a lot. There's the women I thought I was more compatible with. But they had, the way they responded to their trauma triggered me in a way that would make me extremely unhealthy for everybody. So I wanted to find, my wife is flawed, but her flaws are things I feel I can deal with without it driving me nuts, right? But this whole idea, this search for the flawless individual, whether man or a woman, this is too much a part of the conversation. This conversation kind of centers around being a real man, being a real woman. Everybody is broken. You just find somebody whose brokenness doesn't put you in a position where you can never heal. But because we engage in sex so early, we engage in that dopamine so early, we can't tell the difference between how I feel about a person or how good they make me feel. So now we're trying to be a messiah and save things that we shouldn't even be a part of.
Hey man,
that's deep.
Hey man, stop doing that, Travis. Stop it.
That's deep. Now hold on. Okay, so listen. So like we offered at the beginning of the stream that if anybody wanted to hop on camera and give their input, provide any type of feedback, that they could do so. And so we got a brother here, brother Corey.
Man, you gotta screen people, man. You just can't be anybody.
Oh man, listen. I know you know him, but no, Corey. First off, I want to say appreciate you tuning in every week. We always get some good feedback from this brother, and so very excited to hear your thoughts and your perspective. So you have the floor.
Unmute yourself.
I appreciate y'all having me, man. I just wanted to pop in real quick, man. Just had just a quick little view on the different men and women's roles, man. I love the show, man. What y'all doing is very needed, especially the depths that y'all go. Y'all address the different layers of these arguments, showing how it's not just cut and dry. addressing, you know, the rigidness of how, you know, we typically deal with these situations. It's always layers to it. But I do believe when it comes to those relationships, we tend to make it complicated, right? I really believe Travis is on point. When Travis is talking about, you know, is simplified. You know, relationships is always going to be difficult in getting it right, but we tend to make it harder on ourselves when we conform to the societal standards. I know that sounds cliche, especially when you know you got young kids talking like that. But the standpoint I'm coming from is, you know, when dealing with things in traditional sense. And, you know, I've been saying this for a while, and Travis addressed it too. You know, things are different nowadays. I think AL, you addressed this too. And things are different nowadays, you know, whereas when women couldn't work back then. So they were so their roles were forced in the house where they did need a man to survive. A lot of times, you know, when we talk about how, you know, grandparents or this and that, how relationships were able to sustain for longer, well, they had no choice but to operate like
Absolutely.
because they had to survive. They couldn't go back and just go find a job, you know, and even at the point to when, you know, they were afforded freedom. Now, but the skills haven't been generationally developed at that time. So they're still trying to find themselves, you know, within the world. What it all comes down to it is, you know, from a biological standpoint, and we got to ask ourselves within our roles in these different situations, why do we take the steps that we do? Why do we do what we do? We understand that men is primarily the protector because we are just biologically stronger. We're biologically stronger, and biologically we operate off logic. Not to say that we're smarter than women or anything like that. Biologically, we operate off logic because that's just, you know, women with estrogen and everything, it affects them. They take more of an emotion. They take more of an emotional role, especially when dealing with the children. Also, when you're talking about, we got to understand that women get pregnant. When you're making different moves, you understand man's not going to get pregnant, women going to get pregnant for 9 months. So you have to plan around that. That's why a man's always gonna have to be on his square just in case that happens. You know you're gonna fuck around. Sorry for my language, but you know you're gonna mess around, do something you may, you know, and y'all may, you know, conceive something. And yeah, so you definitely got to plan around that. So, you know, yeah, you just got to, it's basically based off, you know, biology, but everything else is, you know, in the traditional sense of, you know, why a man's got to do this and women's got to do this. You got to ask yourself why. You got to ask yourself why. And a lot of times, like I said, we get caught up in the, you know, that and then the optics and how we look to everybody, you know, how we look to everybody else. Like, you know, I don't like, my wife likes to go take out the trash. I don't like her doing that, you know, because I'm like, hey, man, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I'm like, you know, go ahead, do what you do, right? But even with that, still, you know, it's still the sense of she's out there and she still had to defend yourself. You know, things like that come into mind because, you know, as a man, we'll be able to defend ourselves, you know, better because, like I said, that's another biological issue, you know. Whereas a woman, you know, she may be more susceptible to attack. So, you know, I just wanted to put that in real quick, man. Don't want to hold y'all up, man.
No, we appreciate your input, man. Seriously, you brought up a lot of good points. One of the things that I was kind of thinking about too is the we brought up the Bible a couple different times and like the natural role of men and women. And so when we come to this conversation of do women really need men, I kind of understand that not necessarily needing, but a wanting. But when it comes to the Bible, when God commissioned Adam and Eve, the only instructions he gave them was to be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, and subdue it. And so essentially it's really about the children when it comes to marriage. Like marriage really isn't about you know, Instagram photos and traveling and the idea of like this fairy tale love, like you talked about in your book. For those of you just tuning in,
Get that plug in there.
Dating intervention. Yeah, I got you, bro. I told you. But you know, like you said in your book, the fairy tale situation, like with Aladdin, like everybody's looking for this fairy tale thing and foregoing the sheer responsibility that man and woman come together for the purpose of the continuation of life. And so all of it should be about preserving the children and making sure that they turn out the best. And so my question is, when we go into all this individualism, and you know, a man just does whatever a man wants to do, and a woman does what she wants to do, and we don't really need each other. How do you think that affects the next generation? Is the nuclear family, is it still necessary, or is it unnecessary? Is it an old construct?
See, I think that's a misconception, though. I don't think anybody ever said that men and women don't need each other.
No, I mean, people have. I'm not saying anybody on the panel. Like, people have the conversation.
But I'm saying, especially the chicks that be out there, or the dudes for that reason, you know, that be like, I don't need no chick, I don't need no man. Them be the main ones.
Let me ask you this, Lauren, because when you talk about needing, yes, there's one. When you talk about needing, the question is, and I put this in the comment section, need for what? Like I said, if you want to be able to start a family, if a woman herself may want that type of protection from a man or anything, you know, something like that. But it has to be a specific need, you know, just man and woman need each other, because I'm under the, I believe that everybody should be able to provide for themselves, put themselves in the position to where they can, you know, sustain life for themselves. You know, at the very most, we need ourselves and need to be able to have that work ethic. But like I said, if you know, like I said, biologically, if you want to be able to produce a children and produce produce generations, you know, you're going to need another woman, right? You know, so I mean, what do you say to that?
I'm gonna need another woman.
Huh?
Nah, I'm just messed. I was been really.
I mean, I look at it more like it kind of doesn't matter if need or want. There's 6 billion people on the planet. Obviously, men and women are still going to be dealing with each other.
Right.
It kind of doesn't. It doesn't matter how you title it. This is a reality you're going to deal with, right? So, my thing is, let's start talking about the fantasy of it, and that's why I appreciate this conversation. Let's get to the nuts and bolts of it. Something you said, Corey, I'm gonna push back a little bit on, but I appreciate, because this is what this is for, right? About men being more logical than women, that's incorrect. Men rationalize better than women, but that's not the same thing as being logical. Women are more intuitive, right?
Well, when it's is there something?
Right here, hold on, wait, just a second, let me finish the point. The reason why I say that is because we all acknowledge this is a man's world, correct?
Yeah.
Does the world look logical to you? America's run by men. Does America seem logical to you?
You already know the answer.
If I was to answer that, I would say it was. No, I would say it was logical. I believe it was logical.
Layers to it. There's layers to it because women are being utilized. Women are being utilized also right now, and it hasn't just been women. Black people, me and Lauren talk about this all the time, of how, different oppressions for different groups. So we understand that Black people have been oppressed in this country. We understand women have been oppressed in this country. So it's been utilized for that. The oppression, the damage that's been done has been utilized to take us even under. And I don't want to get into no spooky stuff or anything like that, but when you're talking about logic, it depends on what you're trying to move toward in a logical manner. The direction that it's been taken and how it's being constructed, it's been led by a man, but it's being constructed in that manner. I think for the most part, men, and you alluded to this, men are scared to address women nowadays. They're scared
that's ingrained because
they're scared to address women, and that's one of the biggest things there is. They're scared of the backlash, especially here, when we're dealing with each other, because we're dealing with each other rarely because everybody's shaking and moving and trying to get to where we're going. So a lot of the conversations happen online, and women just typically have that basically like a hive mentality. you know, in a general sense. Not saying everyone, but in a general sense. They have a hive mentality, so they hear women or they hear something that looks like a slight, and they all just jump on the man. And so the man's like, you know, well, let me step back. I mean, you even hear it in the way that, you know, we address women. There's always has to be basically like a disclaimer or something, you know, to basically kind of
women are scared.
disarm them.
Now, but let me jump in real quick. Let me jump in. Hold on one second. But I think that a lot of that comes from men did build America, so to speak, but it was built for the comfort of women. And so when it comes to us taking their like you said, their complaints or whatever it is, that's what we've been doing for listen, check this out. So say you know, say the first house, you know what I'm saying? He made a little house out of sticks or whatever. He's able to go in there. Yeah, there's a little water dripping through or whatever, but most men are able to deal with discomfort at a level that women aren't. And I know the pushback is women having babies and pregnancy. Okay, I get that, but that's just the only time you can use that. So, you know, in general, for the most part, physical discomfort. So you mean to tell me that a woman can withstand more physically than a man outside of childbearing?
Yes. Here's the thing.
Corey, I agree with that. Actually.
Okay.
Corey, I agree with that.
Corey just got finished saying something about men are afraid to address women. What Travis has said, and he said that, and men push back. I mean, they step back, and you might have said those words, step back.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to go back to the need and the want. Women need men. Black women need men, and this is where it comes from. This is why they need men. They've never needed man to survive, because when they were brought over here in slavery, the slave owner took care of them because they were breeders. They were providing the next generation to run the plantations, to pick the cotton. So they were taken care of. What women needed their black men to do was stop the plantation manager from raping them, from continuing to produce the next slave generation. But men stepped back. They ran. That's what we do today. When our relationships get rough, we run. What the woman is doing when she confronts us, she's saying, please don't run from this problem. This problem. I might seem hysterical, but it's this problem. And if you leave me, yes, I will be raped again, because America will do that.
You talking about a woman or a wife?
I'm talking about a woman, a female who becomes a wife. She's whatever, any woman with a vagina.
That
I think
because the slave owner did not.
Pandora's box now.
The slave owner didn't just rape wives. He didn't just rape the teenagers. He didn't rape the girls. He raped them all. And
he raped men too. Yeah, men were also raped.
Exactly.
As a form of dominance.
Exactly.
So, but I don't. When we look at this, that's true. But when we look at, we go beyond
saying, "I need you to stand right here."
But that's my issue. My only issue with what you're saying. My only issue, the only one, is that it depicts the woman as not also being human, right? Because what women want sometimes is disastrous. The reason why our issue with confronting women goes way back, which is why in a lot of societies they don't even let women speak, because it's the power of a woman. That's why, even though we're stronger, if it wasn't Corey, it was Courtney, and she came with that same kind of confidence, I would really have to think twice about trying to I'm gonna have to get some disclaimer. Look, am I trying to hurt your feelings or nothing? I'm apologizing before I even said nothing. I don't even think I did anything wrong.
That's because our mothers. That's because of the mothers.
But what does that say? No matter how powerful this woman is, what does that say about your power or your lack thereof? Or your lack thereof?
To me, what that shows, and it goes back to what I think something that AL was a kind of, it's something I said last week, and he touched on it. And I think that was great. We'll build the house, right? And then we're gonna be like, girl, do you like it? Right? So in that case, that's why I say it's a partnership, right? Like, yes, we're strong enough to build a house, we're strong enough to do these things, right? But we almost don't find value in it if a woman doesn't find value in it. So who's really stronger? In that context, strength actually doesn't matter. My thing is, regardless,
You're not strong enough to believe what you built is good. You have to,
No, it has nothing to do with strength. It has to do with what you value. That has
is
nothing
this
to do with
okay
strength.
for you, honey?
You said what? No.
Is that okay for you, honey? Make a decision. Stephen James just got finished making a post. Put that one up. Women are tired of waiting on men. Women are tired of waiting on men.
Tired of waiting for them to do what?
Feeling
What are they waiting?
He said to save them from the
rest. Let the
You
women
mean
feel
want me to save you from taxes? Like, that's what I mean. We use these words, and I wish we would really be definite.
women.
The issue with relationships across the board, we don't define nothing. When we talk about systems, we use these words. I can't save you from a system. I just can't.
Why?
Unless I'm going to go build my own country, create my own currency, I'm in the same system you're in.
Yeah. No, it's the same as that, like they said in church, as for me and my house, and so you got to control your environment.
But then again, if my control, and that's where when we talk about husband and wives, because if you're a single man, it kind of doesn't matter. If you're a single woman, it kind of doesn't matter. I am lord of my own household.
Because single men do just as much damage to potentially marriageable or women that could become wives.
But here's the thing, going back to the book, selfish plug, is because we don't date. That's what it comes down to, because a single woman, also, unless this man is raping her, it's things she's allowing because she's feeling validated.
Now you're going back to the woman again. Why doesn't the man actually take the responsibility of knowing what he's about to build before he enters her?
Because the truth of the matter, whether he takes responsibility or not, I had mine when I was 19. Lolo had his when he was young. Whether I take responsibility or not, we here, and I'm not prepared to be a husband, though this child is here now. So it doesn't, my thing is, instead of everybody talking about who should be responsible to what, first start taking responsibility and accountability for yourself, right? So when I talk about men, I'm like, look, truth of the matter is, you decide what you allow. That's everybody across the board.
One thing that we forgot to address when you all were talking about what God told man and gave these instructions and stuff like that, be fruitful and multiply. What you failed to say was, before God gave Adam his second wife, God gave Adam instructions to work before he was actually rewarded a wife, because God said, hey, Adam, these are your responsibilities to build, to protect, to secure, and makes this go on. And then when he saw Adam getting tired, and he saw Adam's getting weaker, or whatever the case may be, he said, okay, it's not good for you to be doing all this alone. But Adam had responsibilities. Adam had a job to do. And eventually Adam forsook that.
He knew his God. He knew what his mission was.
And
right? And then God provided a helpmeet to help him with that. Right? Part of the reason why he chose to put us all in danger, which is why we're in the situation we're in now, because he remembered life without Eve. Eve didn't have a life without Adam. So he knew what it was. So when it came down to make that decision to stand up and be like, Eve, I'm not going to eat that fruit, he remembered what it meant to be lonely. And so he gave in based on that premise.
So Adam forsook. It was not Eve's fault.
It wasn't Eve's fault that a serpent came and told her she could be God, and she was like, I'm down for that. That's not her fault.
No, because Adam was right there. Because Adam was right there.
Well, and then what he's saying too, because I mean, if you look at the Bible, none of the curses came when what he's saying is the responsibility was put on the man from inception. And so Eve, she bit the apple or whatever fruit it was. Nothing happened. Nothing happened until Adam bit it. And so I believe what he's talking about is the responsibility being put on the man by God.
Look at Genesis 3, Eve was cursed. So you're saying if it's not Eve's fault, if Eve was innocent in all of this, then why would Eve be cursed then? That's unfair.
This is the question.
Come on now.
This is the question I have about everything, because we're dealing with men, on the show, we're dealing with trying to get men out of can you hear me? We're getting men out of a fallen state. And a lot of these men, we identified that they're coming from a lot of single parent homes, single mothers. There's a lot of different aspects, a lot of things that contributed to that, right? And so they're trying to learn how to, they're trying to learn how to just be productive. A lot of things that they're getting from, you know, the mothers who themselves, you know, themselves haven't really been given the correct tools. They've been given societal tools on what, you know, how to be a woman and different things like that. Nothing that's really pragmatic or practical, right? And so a lot of time, you know, you're dealing with men, you're having women that are interacting with, you know, boys, men, or boys, or however you want to describe them, ones that are irresponsible. But one thing to address on that, one thing to take a look at it, and I don't have the stats on it, but what you see a lot of times are, you know, when you're talking about, you know, let's talk about sex in general. Who has more responsibility in that standpoint? We do know that, you know, in an ideal world, yes, there should be equal responsibility. You know, the man, you know, he's got to take care of his, you know, what he's got to do, and the woman, you know, herself. But who's the one that's going to get pregnant? That's why a lot of the single motherhood happens, because the man has the opportunity. He can run. The woman can't run from that. And even if she did, she has that emotional attachment, you know, that emotional and physical attachment to that child. So it's not like she's going to, you know, and I mean, it happens, but it's not like she's just going to go and just toss the baby in the trash can. She gets left with that. So in a real, you know, reality is one has more responsibility within that, you know, within that aspect. They have to take the responsibility. And what you're seeing is a lot of times, you know, it's not just men are bad. You're seeing multiple women having a child with the same no good dude. You seeing the same, you know, you seeing 13 women, you know, he got 13 baby mamas, and he got 13 baby mamas, but it's the same no good dude. And then men are getting a bad rap for this.
They should. They should.
I mean, should they? I mean, like I said, that doesn't take away from the fact there's a lot of no good men, but that doesn't. But when you're talking about, especially dealing with that statistic right there, and you're talking about 13 baby mamas, and with one no good dude. Just in Tennessee, there's a story about two dudes that got about 50 baby mamas between them, between these two guys. So, you know, who's the irresponsible one in that? Should men get it? And you can't even put a bad rap on all women. But is that a case of, so men, there's a societal problem with men?
Corey,
but it goes back to what AL was saying, though. That's really, who's really responsible is the parents. If we're going to really blame somewhere. Yeah. Because we weren't properly trained or equipped to deal with the relationships that we engage in. Right? All I was told was like, you know, get married, have a family. No one's giving no details to nothing. And most of our parents lied about their relationships. Your mama ain't about to tell you she was a jump off and she was hoeing out here before she met your daddy. She ain't about to have that conversation. She's just not. He's not gonna tell you, yeah, you know, I cheated on we were married, I cheated on your mom several times. Ain't nobody being honest. So we go out into the world with these false ideas of what we think a relationship is. And when those don't pan out, now we're disappointed or we try to force them to happen. Right? Truth of the matter is, everyone is held accountable to their decisions. I wish we would spend more time talking about critical thinking, right? Because if you want to save our communities, we're lacking that. We just feel. We feel stuff. I feel this way. I feel that way. Or I'm with somebody because I believe they're going to make me feel this way. We're basically choose people so we can get high off of them. And when the drug runs off, now we want out the relationship. We're not taught a relationship build properly. And until that is done, until those skills are learned, some people have intuitively, most people don't. Until those skills are learned, it kind of doesn't matter. So we're going to blame somebody. I guess you can blame the parents, but even that, to a certain extent, you can't. Because the moment, even someone who's never thought about any of the things we've talked about, exposure now makes you accountable. Because now you've, at least, even if you don't disagree with nothing, there's been a different viewpoint. Now you're responsible for it.
I blame the
I just want to say something right quick, and then y'all can carry on in this beautiful conversation. I'm just gonna say that I will never open the door for my wife ever again. I'm gonna take the keys out the ignition and walking in the store like George Jefferson. That's all I'm gonna say.
Bars.
Man.
Oh, you're
I,
silly.
Now, you
I
know,
always
no,
first call.
in all seriousness, I think that, you know, this conversation has been enlightening about our inability as male and female, man, woman, whatever phrase, whatever terminology you want to use, about our inability to have this dialogue and accept a certain level of responsibility, right? We keep pointing fingers, you know, somebody like, ah, it's the man's job. Somebody else is like, it's the woman's job. And I think even though they may be on different levels, there's an equal level of responsibility. You know, when you talk about, when Corey was just making a reference to, you know, a guy that's got 13 babies mamas because the next chick is thinking that she can change him, or maybe she just has some emotional instability that she doesn't even recognize until she's pregnant. You know, that really talks to, you know, our inability to have to have rational, logical dialogue about, you know, roles and responsibilities and things of that nature. You know, who's responsible for what. And so, you know, it's always responsibility for self. If you can't be responsible for yourself, you can't be responsible for anything else. Like nothing, not even a freaking dog. Like if you can't take care of yourself, you can't be responsible for anything else. You know, once you enter into a relationship, like, yeah, you gotta know. And if you don't know, like, keep it on the surface level, like straight up, keep it on the surface level, you know, until you get some indication one way or another that it's time for you to go deeper, you know, or it's time for me to run. You know, it's nothing wrong with running.
Absolutely. Ain't nothing wrong with running.
If you should be running, because how often do we choose not to run? And then we get into certain situations that we wish we could have done something different. I mean, I'm a prime example. You know, I knew I should have ran, but because I didn't have any guidance, any direction, I went in deeper. Instead of getting out, I went in deeper. Oh, you know, I'm gonna show my pop how to be a man because, you know, he wasn't there for me. Watch this, sucker.
Mm-hmm.
And then we end up perpetuating the same exact thing.
You're still coming from ego. Absolutely.
You know, so
absolutely.
You know, so I mean, it look, it's obvious, painfully obvious that this runs deep. This runs deep.
It does.
And until we are able to step back and say, hey, I'm not going to blame you. I will not, and you can't blame me. Let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about it. We are going to have this perpetual cycle of, you know, men ain't no good. You know, I don't need no man. And, you know, oh man, you know, it's bros before hoes. You know, like you're talking about.
I ain't heard that one in a minute.
Go back.
I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? It's going to continue to be like this because we got this wall up and we go straight into defense mode. And it's like, oh, well, men are the problem. What do men do? We get defensive. Well, women are the problem. What do women do? They get defensive. It's not a problem. Here's the thing about a problem. You better be ready to offer a solution. Because if you're not ready to offer a solution, you don't have a problem. You're just complaining and you're just bitching. Go ahead, Andrew.
I got a solution. Imagine if we stop saying men and women, husbands and wives. Imagine if we actually stuck to men and husbands, and actually taught our boys actually to stop giving away their sperm. And when I say that, we always blame the woman for having the child. We always blame the second cause, not the first cause, but the second cause. Imagine if the first cause, which is the sperm, did not enter the womb where the egg lies. Imagine if that did not happen. Now, for me, the one reason why that was difficult was because my father grew up in an age where it was not good to have a son that was not going to carry on his seed, i.e. a homosexual. So it was good for him to actually teach me how to get inside of a woman and to crave a woman, even for practice at a young age, so that I will know my masculinity. However, I did not know that I was actually beginning to perpetuate the problem, because I was not going to take responsibility for where my sperm went. I was.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you because I've been there.
I said you got to tell your son to leave the room when the WAP video come on, man.
Yeah, definitely. Because he's getting his mind going too soon.
But he's gonna go in his room and find out he got sperm, and then eventually, when you keep telling him to leave the room, somebody is gonna feel that mindset while he's out of the room.
No, that's sperm. You of course you have to follow it up with actual conversation and education. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you can't allow the sexuality to just his eyes are going to take it in. Yes, of course you have to actually have the conversations, because that's part of the problem is we aren't having the conversation. We're not having.
But see, yeah, that's the point. Not having the conversation, because as a man, I don't know about you guys, but nobody ever really talked to me about the power that I hold and possess as a man. Like we talk about the creation of life.
You know why? Because they don't know.
Exactly.
Well, right. But what I'm saying, like the creation of life being a female thing, and to Andrew's point, it's a male and female thing. And so when you talk about, it's liken it to the person that goes to the club with a gun and he shoots up the club. That's the same analogy we use, when it comes to making babies. He shoots up the club, right? Could you blame the person that got shot because maybe they shouldn't have been there? Wrong place, wrong time. You were supposed to be somewhere else doing something else. Okay, that's part of the responsibility. But the bulk of the responsibility is the person who's holding the gun.
That analogy doesn't work.
No,
we know. Look, we know it's sex. The reason why it doesn't. Yeah, it's not a good analogy.
Here blaming the women who have the babies.
No, let me explain why it's not a good analogy.
That's what I'm saying. We the one holding the gun.
It's only not a good analogy because they tell me I'm going to the club, you ain't supposed to have weapons, right? I know sex can get me pregnant, whether I'm man or female. I know that sex is supposed to end in pregnancy. I don't expect, so no one's shocked. No one's like, oh my gosh, you're pregnant. How did that happen? We asked that question. We know exactly how it happened. When someone got shot up in the club, I'm like, yo, how did they get a weapon in here? That's a real question, because they weren't supposed to have weapons in there. No, so I think that's why it doesn't really. You said what?
That person who carried that weapon knew he was carrying the weapon into the club. He knew he was pulling it out, and he knew he was pulling that trigger.
Yes, but I didn't know. My assumption would be that there wouldn't be any guns in here. When I allow, as a woman, if I allow a penis in my vagina, I should not be shocked. I know what sperm does, I know what egg does, unless we're talking about young children who actually don't know pregnancy is a thing. But the moment you know.
That analogy would be better for rape.
I agree. Absolutely.
That analogy is
absolutely.
I think that analogy is a good analogy because it still basically puts the responsibility on the gun owner, on the gun holder. Nobody. But the person who gets shot had no control in the situation. But you still have not addressed why the man had the gun. And why he took it.
That needs to be addressed. But listen, I'm all about addressing the gun the man has. I spend a life, that's my life work. Got no problem with that. But at the same time, we don't want to go the opposite end where we're saying women are completely, I don't know what's happening. Because in that
definitely, because I got daughters. I have daughters. So I got a teenage daughter right now. If she were to become pregnant, right? My first question ain't gonna be like, well, this little boy, what did he do? I know how he did it. You let him. I get that. But we gotta have the conversation on the other side, because I think there's a lot of conversation about, hey, ladies, close your legs, keep your skirt down, et cetera, et cetera. When it comes to boys, we encourage it, just like Andrew was saying before. We want to make sure that our bloodline can be continued. And so when we have boys, we're making sure, hey, I'm gonna need you to go in there and make another me too. Like I need this to continue on. And so we're encouraging our boys to pursue it. The girls are encouraged to reserve it outside of media. Media is pushing a whole different agenda, but in the home, we tell our girls to be modest and prudent, and we tell our boys to go after it.
Well, part of it is we don't.
I don't.
I mean, I don't either, but I'm saying in general.
I know what you're saying.
But
In general,
like,
you're right.
real talk, like men aren't taught. Like I do a whole workshop on the beauty of masculinity, right? Men aren't taught that masculinity is precious. We're taught that femininity is. Here's why, you know, you have sex with her, you're soiling her, you're defiling her, you're taking her virginity, right? Like, nah, like your masculinity, like your masculinity is sacred, right? And you abuse it when you don't treat it as such, right? But because we are at a very early age, we are taught to confuse happiness with pleasure, right?
Yeah, so I like how you put that in your book too. But now you're talking about the power of manhood. This actually just brought up something. This real life, you know, story or whatever. But my son, he's like literally like just hit puberty, and we're in the car. And he's talking
your son out there like that, Doc.
He ain't listen to this. He be all right. but you know, so we're having a conversation, and he's asking me some different questions. And long story short, the part that's relevant to this conversation was I told him, I said, son, what you're feeling is your power as a man beginning to manifest itself inside of you, you know. And I didn't view it that way. You know, I viewed, you know, sex and my interactions with women as just pleasure, and it feels good. I didn't look at it as a release of life force. Exactly. Like this is actually the beginning blocks of building another person. I never looked at it that way. And so I think that you're right, man. There has to be a deeper explanation to our boys and not you know, the woman is here and you're down here or whatever. Like your life force is precious, and it shouldn't be just sold about haphazardly.
Understand what I finished saying, Andrew. This is the beginning of your life force. The beginning. This is the first cause, meaning there will be no pregnancy until you insert and ejaculate. There will be no responsibility for her to assume and you to abandon until you ejaculate. First cause. We don't address the gun. We don't address it.
But I think that's a part of. I think that's what AL was saying. Like part of it, because that's part of masculinity. Women don't have testosterone. They don't have testes, right? They don't have testicles, so they don't even understand that. It is a pressure. You know what I'm saying? It's a hell of a pressure we can all relate to. I just explained to my wife. I was like, like, you know what I'm saying? At certain points, like, yo, I'm gonna be problematic if certain needs ain't met. I'm gonna be a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Now, if we play that back, if we play what you just got finished saying back, what you just got finished saying was women. And I explained that to my wife, and I got this pressure, and I'm going to be problematic. What you did not do was accept responsibility for your gun.
No, but the fact that I'm married means I'm taking responsibility for my gun. Irresponsibility with me not having a conversation.
That's not my point. What I'm talking about is when we talk about the gun and the gun holder, we always talk about the audience that got shot.
But that's why that doesn't cross over well. And let me explain why.
Well, see, and then he's talking about, because I think the part we're missing in too is you know, the sexual liberation of women. Because like even you see these, you know, bust hit challenges and you know, just all these different things where they reveal themselves and do a bunch of sexual things. A lot of them do it in the name of female empowerment. And so there's this whole move where, you know, open sexuality is empowerment, you know. And so then when you have you know, this young boy, he's been looking to, you know, go to the shooting range or whatever, and you know, you got somebody holding up targets all day. You know what I'm saying? It does so. So
again, we went to the women. They're liberated. So you know, so again, let's go to the women. Anytime
what I'm saying is
they keep framing it that way. I don't think that's what's actually happening in the conversation.
Because they have right, but like they have conversations like, you know, you can't suppress, you know, don't suppress my sexuality. If I want to have a one night stand, it's my prerogative, you know, which it is. It completely is. Again, but like you said, as men, we have to right.
Again, you're talking about them. Understand who you're talking about, and more importantly, understand who you're not talking about.
But I mean, honestly, though, if you're going to, that's part of the communication issue, right? So, and I'll give an example of my wife. My wife doesn't know what it means to be a man. So she's trying to understand me, like, Travis, why do you act this way? Okay, baby, this is why. Like, this is This is not me holding her responsible for my actions. This is not me telling her, hey, look, if you don't do this, this, and this, then you're going to make me do this, 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 and this. We're not even talking about cheating. I'm problematic. I'm in a mood now. I have a hard time. I need your help helping me regulate. Now, if a man feels like he does not need help at all, and he feels like, you know what, I got it all together, just stay single. You good then. Just take you and your little gun, take you and your little pistol, and you tuck it in at night and never shoot it. You good then. What you getting married for?
Oh my goodness, man. Okay, listen. Okay. So look, we are way over time, man. This conversation was lit, man. I appreciate all the input from you guys, for real, man. A lot of things to go back and think about. I'm sure people are gonna be having some good conversations. Those who tuned in, and so definitely appreciate the conversation. What was that?
We had 2 hours and 10 minutes, yo. That's crazy.
Yeah, right. I said it's been some time, and so we'll go ahead and wrap up this edition of Elevating Men, our men's panel on Mondays. We're here every Monday, 7 p.m., same time, same place. And the whole point of this, because I don't want you guys to lose sight of it. We were talking about relationships and we went all over the place, but the whole point of this is really to elevate the man. It's really to rebuild the men in our communities, because most of us are broken. And as we rebuild the men, the goal is to rebuild families and build stronger communities. And so it all starts with conversations and dialogue.
Taking out the trash, y'all. I done messed up.
We don't claim to have all the answers here on this show, but we are willing to open up and have the conversations. And that's what we feel is really important. And so before we completely call it a night, Lojo, any last words, final thoughts, and how they can get in contact with you?
I mean, I already gave you my last words, man. I'm walking in the store like George Jefferson now. Man, you can check me out, Lojo Speaks, here on Facebook, LOJOSPEAKS. Same thing on Instagram, Elevating Men every Monday night at 7 o'clock, like clockwork. You can check me out. So, all those 3 different platforms, obviously, we are trying to, build up the man. I ain't gonna say build up. We're trying to reconstruct in some ways and re-educate, how we operate, mentally, how we think. And so definitely continue to check in, and just, ask questions. Drop a comment, accept the feedback, accept rebuttal, because as you can see, we rebutted each other all night. Thanks so much for tuning in, for rocking with, me on my platform. Thanks for rocking with us on this show. We are going somewhere with this. So I hope, as much as I'm getting fed, that we are feeding you something that you can kind of take back and into your daily operations.
Awesome. Andrew, any last words, final thoughts?
Hey, I appreciate each and every one of you gentlemen. I have finally started growing hair again, thanks to you. But what I hope to say is, if you all will, please go to RESTIN 2050, restin2050.org. Unfortunately, the things that we are talking about and things we are living through are historical. And what Restin 2050 is trying to do is actually prepare, is actually trying to build a tomorrow based on the things that we learned, so that we can enter into tomorrow in a tomorrow that we build together better. Not that we take all of our pains into, not the ones that we keep continuing to have this conversation and continuing to pass this conversation on to our children, who will pass this conversation on to their children. We're doing something different. We're building a tomorrow. Restin2050.org.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. And for our special guest, first time, 2-time panelists back to back. We had to have you back, bro. I love you. You got some strong opinions, man. And for those of you who missed the introduction, Mr. Travis Bryant, that brother that you see right above me, that had all the good rebuttals and had all the good information to share with us tonight. He is the author of this book, Dating Intervention: Do's and Don'ts to Dodge Disaster. I'm telling you, people, this book is amazing. I really don't make recommendations lightly. I read this entire book cover to cover. I loved it. And you should definitely get a copy. You should definitely consider getting a copy. Because we were talking about dating, I want to read a couple things here real quick out of the book. It's the last chapter. It's chapter 9. Dating does and does not mean. Dating does and does not mean. And so we're talking about dating. I'm gonna just run through these really quickly. You guys got to grab the book to get the rest of the information though. But this is what dating does and does not mean. Dating is intentionally getting to know another person by setting aside time for a relationship to develop. Dating is an interactive interview. Dating does require you to feel comfortable in your own space. Dating does mean you are certain that you are uncertain. And that's a really good one. You got to read that one. We've got dating does not mean a commitment of any type. Dating does not require sexual intimacy to be successful. Dating does not mean you're no longer single. Dating the right way does not mean you will not be disappointed. Dating does not have a time limit. Dating is literally just getting to know a person. And what I like about this, because I read the book before you came on the show, brother, you stuck to your points. You stuck to your points. I know what you think because I read the book and you came on here and you talked your stuff and you held your ground. And so, you know, I definitely appreciate and commend you for that. How can people get the book and what are your last words?
So you can catch me at travisbryanjr.com. I'm also on Facebook, Travis Bryan. I also have a Facebook page, Interpersonal, ENTER Personal. Message me. If you're in the city, message me. I want to meet you, right? Message me. I want to meet you. I'll bring the book to you. Or you can get off Amazon. I prefer if you didn't, right? I want to talk to you. Let's chat it up. As far as last words, I hope that people paid not just attention to the content, the content, but also how the content was delivered. We didn't agree on everything, right? And we're still able to laugh, smile, and love each other despite that. And I think we need more of that in our dialogue. We come ego first way too often. Instead of having our mind elevated, we want our feelings validated, right? And that's caused a lot of rifts in relationships. You know. Also, I'm gonna be doing a workshop on dating soon. That'll be, you know, I'll let you all know. We hopefully next like month or two. You know what I'm saying? We'll be having that. You got to get tickets, and I'll be actually part of the bundling would be when you buy a ticket, you also get a book. And by then, I think the second book, Courting Courtship, should be ready to go. So I appreciate you guys having me on this platform. It is incredible. Good to connect with Andrew again. I see Andrew in and out in my life, so it's just great. I'm like, man, I'm running to this guy again. So it's awesome. Really check out his website. Again, AL, what you're doing is wonderful. Man, keep this up. Like dialogue. I know we 2 hours in, but honestly, that's only because these conversations never happen. So I'm all for it. I want to thank Lauren, man, for putting me on game, man. Like he's really about elevating men, because I be kind of chilling. And he's like, nah, Trav, you need to check out. So I appreciate that, bro. Yeah,
I just want to say something right quick, man. Andrew, Brother Boykin, I think you can agree with me that Brother Johnson just straight disrespected us. He didn't say nothing about our valuable rebuttal or nothing like that.
Man, wait a minute. I ain't even gave my last words yet, man. I was about to give you a whole speech or whatever, but that's canceled, man. I'm through. Man, listen, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate each and every last one of you. Thank you for the likes, the comments, the shares. I get a lot of encouraging inboxes. Keep those coming. It isn't easy trying to build a platform where we're talking about these tough subjects, where we're being serious, and where we're really trying to address issues. A lot of people in our community, when it comes to, you know, spending a couple hours doing anything, it's generally frivolous entertainment that isn't going to build anything, that isn't going to change the narrative or help anything. And so you are special because you're here. You know, you care about the community, you care about these issues. And so we appreciate you taking part in that. For the brothers on the panel, I was about to do it. I think I'm gonna just say no. But no, Lojo, I gotta give I got to give Lauren his props. This brother calls me, you know, a couple times a week, at least bare minimum, anything you need, any way I can help, any way I can be of service, whether it's connecting with another brother or, you know, just some work behind the scenes. He's always willing, he's always there. And so I want to tell you publicly that I appreciate that. I really do. It's not every day that you find, you know, brothers that are really down for the cause. And so I know that you're genuine. You know, I know how much you talk to and work with other people who have the same mission of rebuilding men and building strong fathers. And so I love having you here, bro. I love having you. Andrew Boykin, you already know, you know, we go back a couple of years. You've helped me so much as far as growing as a man, becoming more introspective, learning things about myself, learning how to forgive, learning how to look outside of myself when it comes to being a better man versus, or look within myself when it comes to being a better man instead of always looking outside, you know, at external things. And so I appreciate you for that. I appreciate you being here. For those of you that haven't yet, check out restin2050.org. Andrew Boykin, in my opinion.
Can you put it in the comments?
Most definitely. I'll put that in the comment. Definitely. But Andrew Boykin is one of the most intelligent men that I've ever met. Very well thought out, very methodical. And if he says he's going to do something, he does it. He's a man of his word. He's put a lot of work into laying this groundwork, this framework, this foundation for the future. And so just take a few minutes, go to restin2050.org. All of the information that you need is right there. And reach out to him if you have any questions. If you agree with what you see, definitely, you know, become a part of the restoration. Join the restoration.
Join the restoration.
And then track. Oh, go ahead, Lojo.
I'm about to say join the restoration. I just like the way that sounds. Like,
yeah. Nah, I just wanted to say, man, you know, I want to send a shout out to our brother that couldn't be here tonight, brother LaRon Barnes, aka LaRon the Motivator. He couldn't be here because he is putting in work for y'all. I'm just gonna say that. He couldn't be here because he's putting in work for y'all. So he should be back next week. And if he's not back next week, it's because he's putting in work.
Yes. And then you know, Travis, man, like I said, bro, I can't speak highly enough of you, man, for someone that I just met here recently. You're a man of your word as well. You brought the book by. I'm a man of my word. I read it cover to cover. I love it. And I love everything that you're doing. And anytime that you you know, need a platform or want to get in front of the audience, it's open to you. So, you know, just reach out. Yeah, you know, when you get when your new book is published, we'd love to have you back on. We definitely want to promote the book and all of that. And so, and then for those of you that don't know, if this is your first time tuning in, my name is A.L. Johnson. I'm the founder of A.L. Johnson Life Insurance Agency. I've been an insurance agent for the past 12 years, helping people protect their families financially, but also become more financially literate. I'm very big on education. And so if you visit my life insurance page, aljohnsonlifeinsuranceagency.com, you'll see a series of interviews from different business owners throughout the community, whether it's, you know, taxes, real estate, you know, investments, all of that, you know, and it's free of charge. I really believe that information should come to you for free. It shouldn't always be, you know, accompanied by sales pressure. And so that's what we do there. And then Elevating Men is just a platform that started here we're only a couple months into this, but we've got some really big plans. We intend on making a very big impact in the community. And so follow us along on the journey. We appreciate each of you watching this. Again, share it with somebody in your network. Somebody needs to see this. Andrew, you have something else?
Yes. Andrew always does a good job of giving us praise. And Andrew gives his own testimony at the end. But what I hope that you all realize is that Andrew is usually up at 4 o'clock in the morning at the gym. After that, he goes to work. After that, he comes home and takes care of his family. After that, he does some introspect. After that, he actually figures out what more can he do. After that, he actually listens to other people on what it is he wants to get better at. So what you're seeing just with this Elevating Men is a culmination of a man who's trying to be the best man that he can for himself, for his family, his community, for his tomorrow. And he's putting it into action. He has a whole lot of different things going on, not just this, not just work. So if you actually find a way to support him as well, including taking out a life insurance policy, that would be just the first thing to help. You might actually know of a business, or you might be linked to a business or someone, maybe a church or an organization that would like to sponsor some of these segments that he puts on. What we're asking is that we actually find that we are the strength. We are the village. We are who we've been waiting for to get us to where we want to be. It's just that we have to put us into action like he's doing.
Come on
Man, I
now.
appreciate that. I appreciate
Where the
that.
organ at? Where the organ?
Kumbaya. I feel like we all
You know what
need
I'm
to
saying?
like let's say
Where
dap
that
each other
field
through the
music?
little virtual daps. But I appreciate that, Andrew, and I receive it. It's something that's really important to me, and not gonna stop. Not gonna stop. So check us out next week again, Monday, 7 p.m. It looks like we're probably going to be getting a little more into this conversation. There's a couple rabbit holes that I think we may want to go down a little further, and so you know, be looking for the event page. We'll have that up by the middle of the week. But we appreciate all of you. Have a good night.